Amy Evans is suing her ex-boyfriend, Timothy Beeler, for an unpaid loan to pay his rent and for the accrued interest on the loan. Timothy is countersuing for harassment and defamation of character.
Miss Evans, Mr. Beeler was a friend of yours, and you took out a loan for him, very high-interest loan, because he was in need of money. You want him to pay you back. The defendant says that you gave him money. He told you not to take out such a high-interest loan. You did it anyway. And he's got a counterclaim for some nonsense because you're angry at him for not paying back the loan, so he says you've been harassing him for the money and telling people that he's a deadbeat, right?
That's correct.
Well, you probably are. Truth is a perfect defense. Why did you take money from her?
I didn't take money from her, Your Honor. It was a...
Just a second. You did take money from her.
I did. She offered...
No, listen to me. You did take money from her. It is my judgment as to whether that is a loan or a gift. My question to you is, why did you take money from her?
We had been seeing each other, whatever was going on with her, in her relationship with her husband or whatever. We started talking again, and she had stayed over a couple nights. We were pretty close. We were getting along pretty good. I was telling her my situation about my roommate. He skipped out on me, left me kind of hanging. I was a little short on my rent and whatnot. She said she'd try and help me out. She came up with some money. Yeah, she handed it to me, and I took it. It was a gift. I didn't know that I was forced to change that.
Just a second.
And everything was cool, and we started talking about our relationship and stuff and what we were going to do. Well,
tell me about that, sir.
What?
I'm confused because I read the papers, yours and hers. Tell me, when she stayed over at your house, did you stay in the same room?
Yes.
Did you stay in the same bed?
Yes.
Just a minute. I'm not paying Amy for anything. She gave me the money with the hopes of rekindling our romance, which has been over for years, according to you. Now, if it had been over for years, sir, why did you share a bed with her? Stand up straight, please.
Why did I share a bed with her?
Yeah, you said your romance has been over for years.
We were hanging out. We were seeing each other.
Hanging out is not sharing a bed.
Well, kissing and other things that go in that matter are. So, yeah, we shared a bed.
But you, listen.
Yeah, we did.
Then you, listen to me.
Well.
Listen to me. Then you lied to me here when you wrote in this answer, she gave me money in the hopes of rekindling our romance, which had been over. So that's a lie.
Because.
Just a minute. That's a lie then, based upon what you just told me.
No.
That is absolutely.
Because when I told her I didn't want a relationship no more, she took off, didn't call me or nothing. She started telling a bunch of people that I was a deadbeat and all that.
You are a deadbeat.
Well, whatever. That's your opinion.
How old are you? How old are you?
34.
34. If you're 34 and you can't afford to pay your rent and you borrow money or you take money.
Took it.
Take money.
Yeah.
I'll decide in a second whether you owe it to her. Take money from a woman who you say the relationship is over, and yet you share your bed with her, and according to you, talk about a relationship with her, and then take money from her. That makes you a deadbeat. And it makes you an amoral deadbeat. Because what you're doing is saying, listen, I need some money. She's going to give me some money. So I'll string her along. You know, I'll hug her and I'll kiss her and I'll sleep with her. And I'll sleep with her. We'll talk about our relationship.
I'm speaking.
I don't think so.
Hey,
it takes two. I'm speaking.
It takes two.
Did she take money from you?
No.
Your Honor,
just a second. Do I look like I need any help from you?
No,
Sit down.
No, ma'am, you don't.
Sit down. You kissed her. She kissed you.
Right.
You hugged her.
Yeah.
She hugged you.
Okay. What's the point?
You took money from her.
Yeah.
She took money from you.
No.
Right. How much money does he owe you, this idiot? How much?
With interest, he owes me $3,900.
Just a second. You don't get any points from me for being an idiot. Okay?
Okay.
And if you take out an interest-bearing loan, and the interest on the loan is 87%, you'd get zero sympathy from me. Now, how much money did you give him?
$2,500, Your Honor.
That's what he's going to give you back. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all. Step out.
But, Your Honor, I had to pay $1,100 interest.
You shouldn't have taken out a loan for him, madam. You gave him $2,500. This idiot had no concept that he was going to have to pay you back $3,900.
He knew it was a loan, Your Honor.
He knew it was a loan.
And he knew about the interest.
He's going to pay you back.
He was supposed to go back to work and pay me back.
Listen to me. He was supposed to go back to work. He didn't go back.
He was working.
I was working.
He was working with me. She was calling and texting.
Oh, all he did was
to me.
He works everybody he knows. That's all he does.
Question?
No.
Very good. He owes her $2,500. The rest of it is her own stupidity. Goodbye.
Sharon Martina Napolitano is suing the mother of her daughter's boyfriend, Deborah DeSimone, for damage caused to her Toyota Camry while the car was in her possession.
You two lovely ladies are neighbors, and you each have a child. You have a girl, you have a boy. They're dating each other.
Yes.
This is your complaint. You allowed your daughter, this young lady right here, to use your car. She was using your car one day to take Miss DeSimone around to do some chores.
Correct.
And that wouldn't have bothered you necessarily, because she's the mother of the boyfriend, right? But then Miss DeSimone asked if she could borrow the car herself because she wanted to go food shopping, right?
Yes, to pick up a couple items.
And your daughter allowed her to drive the car. The car was damaged. You want Miss DeSimone to pay for the damage to the car.
Absolutely.
Miss DeSimone says she took the car, went into Food Town. While she was in Food Town, somebody must have hit your car.
Correct.
Right?
That is correct.
So it's not her fault. That's what you're saying.
That's correct.
We'll see. What year is your car?
It's a 1995 Camry.
How long have you had it?
Approximately a year.
So you bought it secondhand?
Yes, ma'am.
How many accidents have you had?
I've had one other one where I was hit from behind at a red light.
So you had a rear end damage to the car? Bumper? Or
Bumper.
Bumper. Only the bumper?
Only the bumper.
Was the car fixed?
No.
On September 6th, what kind of damage was done to your car?
It would be the right quarter panel.
Do you have a photograph?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see it, please.
Here's before and after.
Ooh. That's a bad one. Okay. So, you still dating each other?
Yes.
Okay, this is not going to be painful. Believe me. We're going to use the but-for rule, Miss DeSimone.
Okay.
But for the fact that you borrowed the car and took it to Food Town to go shopping, this wouldn't have happened. Unfortunately, you took the car. You didn't have her permission to drive the car. You had her daughter's permission to drive the car.
Actually, there was a couple things that happened prior to that. While I was in the car with her daughter, it was a very rainy day. Her daughter was driving the car. The car was hydroplaning a lot, and she became very nervous and asked if she pulled over if I would drive. I said, no problem, if it's safer. We completed our mission. We did proceed home. Asked if she didn't mind if I ran back out to just pick up a couple items at the Food Town. That's when all that began, and the police report states differently, if you'd like to see it, that he even stated, the police officer, that he saw prior damage on the car.
You mean this prior damage?
No, other damage.
We're not talking about other damage. We're talking about this damage.
But she's saying that there was only damage to the bumper, and according to this, it states that there was...
What difference does it make? This damage was not on the car, madam, when you borrowed it.
No.
That's all I'm talking about.
I don't believe so.
I am only talking about... Well, you don't miss this damage.
No.
Ma'am,
No, you don't have to speak. It was going to be easy. Now it's not so easy. For the fact that you borrowed the car, took it to Food Town, the car would have been parked in her driveway. If the car was parked in her driveway, the same driver that hit her car from Food Town would have had to look for it.
Can I please say
Stop.
something?
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
And she's taking your word for the fact that you don't know how this accident happened. But it looks as if she had hit somebody else's car, unless she, I don't know how you can contort yourself to do this kind of a damage to somebody else's car. But you had the car, but for the fact that you borrowed the car, it wouldn't have had this kind of damage.
Correct.
This damage. Good. Then we don't have a problem. What do you want?
Okay. She just got done stating that the car was hydroplaning earlier, okay?
It doesn't make any difference.
Excuse me. They made it home safely. She has a Jeep Cherokee parked in the same parking lot that she could have used her own vehicle to go to the store. There is no reason to take my little car back out.
Let me ask you this question. Now you're getting angry, and you already won. So you have to go, find your center.
I've been trying to do a lot of it. I've been trying to find a lot
your
of my
center and say, it's over.
But I would have never asked her son to use her car.
Listen to me. It's a car. She's responsible. Done. Romeo and Juliet here. We're going to leave here happy. I suggest you do the same. How much did it cost to fix your car?
The estimate is $1687.98.
That's a pretty cheap estimate for this kind of damage.
I think so.
It is. Anything else? Romeo, Juliet. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $1687.98. Thank you. That's it.
Brooke Beeson claims former roommate Kimberly May broke their lease when she moved out of their apartment.
How old are you?
21.
Who is this?
My mother.
Thank you. Ms. Beeson, you and the defendant leased an apartment together. Were you both in college at the time?
She dropped out of college. I was still attending, yes.
And according to your complaint, she moved out.
Yes.
On the lease. She moved out on the lease, and in addition to moving out on the lease, she, according to you, defamed you by telling certain things to your landlord about what was going on in the apartment. You want to be compensated for both.
Absolutely.
Half of the rent and the defamatory remarks that she allegedly made to the landlord.
Yes.
When did you sign the lease?
May 2006.
And you had known each other for a long time, according to what I read in the complaint. So this wasn't new. And it was just the two of you in the apartment?
Yes.
When did you move out?
June 29th, 2006.
Okay. Now you're going to tell me why you moved out.
Due to bad circumstances.
No, well, that's...
Drug use, and she clearly disrespected me after asking her plenty of times, her friends in and out of my stuff, my bathroom. I had to put a lock on my door because I didn't feel comfortable leaving my own house, and that's why I left.
Let me try to sort it out a little bit. You felt uncomfortable because her friends were coming to the house, and you felt uncomfortable with them.
Yes.
Why?
Because they were up all hours of the night using drugs.
Did you ever see anybody using drugs?
Yes.
Who?
Brooke and her friends.
What kind of drugs?
Marijuana, and that's all I saw.
Did you ever smoke marijuana?
Yes.
So they were up, they were partying, they were smoking marijuana.
That I know of.
That you know of. A substance that you also indulged in.
Not at the apartment.
Wherever. It's somebody's apartment. You didn't do it in the street, right?
Right.
But you didn't do it at school, right?
Right.
So you had to do it in somebody's apartment, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you had to put a lock on the door.
Yes.
Your bedroom door. Tell me when you put a lock on the bedroom door.
In May.
Tell me why.
Because I didn't feel my belongings were safe. She had people in and out of our apartment.
Miss May, did you have any rules that you set up to this apartment with Miss Beeson?
No.
Well, then you have a problem, madam. Your problem is you have to be a big girl.
I know that now.
And if you sign a lease on an apartment, you can't just pick up your marbles and go home. So far, you haven't given me one valid reason why you would be entitled to break a lease. You're alleging that you saw her and her friend smoking marijuana. Whether you did in the apartment or not, I don't know, but you certainly did it in somebody else's apartment, so you weren't frightened of drug use because you did it yourself.
Not at the time. Before I have.
Whatever. I didn't say at the time, before or after. So you weren't certainly frightened of what you saw there because it was something you had indulged in yourself. I mean, I can understand you not being happy if there's lots of partying going on. Did she complain to you about that? Is not an answer. Did she complain to you about people being in the apartment? Or...
Yes.
So what did you say to her?
They're mutual friends of ours, so at certain times, the same friends that would be there with me would be there when I would come home. Late at night, they would be over with her.
Well, why didn't you try to work it out? Sit down and work out a scenario where at 1 o'clock in the morning everybody goes home, whether it's your friends or her friends. Why didn't you try to work it out?
Because it wasn't an ongoing thing. It wasn't day to day. It wasn't day in, day out. So it was never a continual issue.
Well, but she made it an issue. When did she tell you she was moving out?
Never told me. Moved
That's a
out.
lie.
Vacated the premises without any warning. Said she needed to talk to me the morning before. I came home from work. I said, you know what, I have school all day. I'll be home at 2 o'clock. I have to be at work at 5. If you want to talk when I get home from school, that's totally fine. If you want to meet me, I'll be here from 2 to 5 before I go to work. Came home, didn't say a word to me. I went to work, came home, and all of her things were gone.
What efforts did you make to find another roommate to take over your lease?
I told her 3 weeks prior to my moving out.
What efforts
I didn't
did you
make any.
Well, you have to. You can't just walk out on a lease. Now, what proof do you have that she made statements to the landlord about you?
I have a document that she had given to the apartment complex, if you want to look at this.
That she signed?
That she has signed, yes, absolutely.
I'd like to see it. Who prepared this letter for you?
Me and my mom wrote it.
Well, you can't just say, I accept no responsibility for rent or expenses relating to the apartment after June 29th, 2006. You have a contract with them, and you have a contract with her. And you made absolutely no effort to find another roommate. You have to be a big girl. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Well, why did you help her write this letter? Stand up when you talk.
Because she needed to write it at the time.
What do you mean she needed to write it at the time? I don't understand you. Did you know your daughter smoked marijuana?
She had before.
She had before.
Yes,
she
I
probably
did
had during, and I guarantee you she does afterwards, maybe not in the apartment, but it's not something that frightens her because she does it herself. And that's the only drug use that she ever says she saw in the apartment. So why would she sort of ascribe any untoward behavior to the plaintiff? It's outrageous. She's a baby, and she shouldn't be coddled by you. Should have told her not to rent the apartment in the first place. You have a roommate now?
No, I do not.
Did you have a roommate?
Yes, I did for 1 month.
So you did have a roommate?
Yes.
When did the roommate move in?
In October. It was a temporary thing. He was moving in and moving out, and I needed the rent, so I told him he could move in for the 1 month that he was transferring places from where he was at to going back to his parents' house. It was an agreement we had from the start. He was the only person I could find, and I needed the money at the time, so any money's better than no money at this point.
Did you put any ads in the paper?
I have not, but I had a roommate lined up that bailed on me last minute, so it's just a bunch of...
Who's paying?
My mother does. I'm a full-time student.
When is the lease up?
May of 2007.
Well, you better see if you can find another roommate.
Absolutely, I'm in the
What's
process.
the rent?
$1,400. It's actually $1,391.
Okay, so it's $700 each. Is that right?
Not including utilities.
She moved out in May. Did you pay May's rent?
Yes.
Did you pay June's rent?
Yes.
You didn't pay July?
No.
Didn't pay August?
No.
Didn't pay September?
No, but she wrote me a letter saying that she was having a roommate move in September 1st, 2006, and I responded to her
Let me see.
letter.
Give her both of them.
Okay. Well, you wrote this letter to her, telling her exactly what she owed and that your daughter, fortunately, had found a roommate that will be moving in September 1st. You wrote the letter.
However, can I?
Yes.
Okay. Brooke had a girl from work lined up that had given us a $200 deposit, which we, on the itemization, showed that she had given us. The girl ended up not moving in. So we deducted $200, the deposit she had given, and we did get a deposit from her to secure us, but it didn't remove Kim from the lease. Anyways, she did not get another roommate until Chad moved in for 1 month. She has contacted everybody. She let the apartment know that she would move out if they could find somebody. A tenant had come to me regarding something, and I had tried to work something out where she could even take over the apartment so Brooke could move back home.
I got you. You have 3 months' rent so far. We have October that this fellow moved in, and you have November and December. That's 5 months' rent. It's $3,500. So far, that's what you owe her. And although I'm not happy with the letter that you sent, the letter does not indicate that the plaintiff is the one that was using drugs in the apartment. It says that there was drug use in the apartment. It doesn't describe that conduct particularly to her. Could have been other people, it could have been guests, etc. So I'm not awarding you any money for defamation. Right now, the entire lawsuit has not come to fruition yet. It's not become fixed yet because I am hoping that she will find a roommate.
So am I. I'm paying the rent.
Right, I got it. You can't do that. And your daughter can't do that. She's got a responsibility. Why should this mother be responsible for the rent? Let your daughter move in, she'll move out. You want to do that? Stand up. Move over. The apartment's lease goes until next May. Right now, Miss Beeson's mother has been footing the bills for your daughter's share of the rent. She's perfectly prepared for her daughter to come home and live at home. You want to assume the responsibility from January until May for your daughter? She'll move out and your daughter can move in. That way she can be safe. She can have only her own friends. How about it?
No, I would not.
Why?
Why?
Why is my question. Why is it okay for this lady to pay all the rent when your daughter defaulted and not for you to pay all the rent when your daughter defaulted?
Well, first of all, that lady doesn't have to pay anything. I don't have to pay anything.
Sure you do.
Two adults.
No, just a second. You made an excuse for your daughter and you helped her craft a letter to get out of a lease. Your daughter had no right to move out.
May I say something? What if I find her a roommate?
No question. That's not my question. My question is, you can't stick her with the rent. What, instead of her having to pay you any money since she's already out that money, you move in. You find a roommate. You don't have to find her a roommate. Find yourself a roommate that you're happy with. How about it?
No.
Yeah,
May I say something?
Right. She's a big baby, and don't encourage her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all.
Felicia Hammond is suing her neighbor, 22-year-old Ashley Francis, for damage to her car. Felicia says Ashley's son, 7-year-old Derek, scratched her bumper when he crashed his bike.
Miss Hammond, how long have you and Miss Francis been neighbors?
Approximately a year.
You have children?
No.
Who do you live with?
Myself.
How many children do you have?
One. Derek.
Cute. It is your claim, Miss Hammond, that this adorable little boy fell off his bike and scratched the bumper of your car.
Yes.
You want his mother to pay for that scratch.
Yes.
Can I see the picture of the scratch?
Yes.
You're talking about this little scratch right here.
Yes.
Does it have any other scratches on it?
No, ma'am.
So, tell me what happened.
On January 1st, 2005, I was looking out of my bedroom window. Derek was riding his bicycle in the middle of the street. He ran into my car. His front wheel of his bicycle hit my passenger back wheel. And the way the bike fell, I guess the pedal of his bike must have scratched my bumper. I immediately went outside to check the damages, and that's when I noticed the scratch on my bumper. I went back in the house, contacted the police.
That's one of the things in your complaint that I didn't understand. Why did you call the police?
For a police report.
Why?
Just in case she didn't want to pay, just for my evidence.
Well, instead of going over to Miss Francis first, before you call the police, I mean, that wouldn't have been my first reaction. I mean, might have been my first reaction if a big boy came up to your car and took a rock and scratched it. I mean, that's vandalism. Mm-hmm. This wasn't vandalism. This was an accident.
It was an accident, yes.
So I don't understand your overreaction in calling the police.
Well, I wouldn't consider it an overreaction, but that was just...
well, you may not consider it an overreaction. But I'm telling you it was an overreaction.
Okay, well, that's what I did. And then after that, I went over and talked to his mother.
What did you say to her when you went over
I
there?
told her that her son was riding his bicycle. He fell off the bicycle, and his bicycle damaged my bumper.
Did you tell her you would call the police?
I told her I called the police.
What was her reaction when you told her you called the police?
She just said, okay, we'll wait till they get here, and we'll take it from there. And she told me that she would pay me for the damages.
Is that the conversation you had?
Well, first of all, he fell off his bike. He came home to me, and his leg was all scraped up, and he was crying. 2 minutes later, I got a knock on the door, and she was telling me, your son hit my car with his bike. I saw him hit my car with his bike. You will pay for it. I told her right now I'm not in a position to pay for anything. Me and my mother had talked, and she asked, did I see it happen? Did Derek remember if it happened? Derek just remembered he fell off the bike.
Derek remembered he fell off the bike and hurt himself.
Right.
Let us say, Miss Francis, that Derek fell off of his bike and scratched the bumper of her car.
Right.
That's what happened.
That's what she's saying.
I'm telling you that's what happened.
Okay. Well, there was also several kids that always play in that neighborhood.
Don't make excuses. Derek fell off of his bike. She saw him fall off the bike at the exact same moment. He came home crying that he had fallen off his bike. He scraped his leg. It all fits. I don't care how many other people were around the car or around the neighborhood or around the planet.
Okay.
He didn't mean it. It was an accident. Unfortunately, Miss Hammond was not a good neighbor.
And the way that she...
I'm telling you, Miss Hammond, you were not a good neighbor. And if you had had little children, the first call wouldn't have been to the police to file a police report.
Okay,
the first call would have been to Miss Francis to say, your little boy just fell, is he okay? That would have been the first call. He fell and he scratched my car. Do you get it?
I get it, but I didn't know that he had damaged his leg.
Yes. Just a second, of course. Well, that's the question you ask. I want quiet. The question that you ask is, I saw Derek fall off his bike. Is he okay?
Well, when he fell, he got back on the bike and he rode off.
So he wasn't an extremist, which means he's okay.
He was, yeah.
As it happened, he hurt himself. Scratched leg, scratched bumper. How old are you?
7. He just turned 7 September 16th.
So he's thinking 7. Okay? Your car is 10. He's 7.
Yes.
Scratched leg, scratched bumper. You got it?
Yes.
All right. You have an estimate for the damage?
Ma'am.
I'd like to take a look at it. Is that about right, Byrd? $300 to fix it?
Guess so.
$376 to be exact. You have to have a perfect bumper.
But can't they just paint the scratch? Because when we
Bumpers
scratch...
aren't I'm told that they're made out of a different material, so that you can't use touch-up paint. Is that right?
That's right.
Otherwise, believe me, $9.95 she would have gotten a little touch-up paint and touch it up, but you can't do that with a bumper. I know. Somebody just did it to my bumper. Judgment to the plaintiff in the amount of $376. Okay.
Thank you,
Be a
Your
good
Honor.
neighbor.
Wow.
Goes much further. That's all.
Basil Aziz is suing comedy club owner Jay Robertson for the cash prize from a Player of the Year contest. Jay says Basil was the only contestant to show up.
Mr. Aziz, according to your complaint, Mr. Robertson is the owner of a club that you have been to in the past, and you saw some sort of an advertisement that indicated that on a particular day he was going to have a contest. You claimed that you went to the contest, that you won the contest, and that Mr. Robertson didn't pay I think it was $1,000. Is that right? That he indicated in the flyer was going to be the prize. Mr. Robertson's defense is that not enough people showed up, so that the contest never took place.
Correct.
Okay. Can I see the flyer that notified the public about this contest? Your club is in Virginia, sir?
Yes.
What kind of club is it?
It's a comedy club.
And you had these prepared?
Yes, I did.
Where did you send them?
They was on all sides of town, all over.
Okay. It says $1,000 to be awarded to the Player of the Year. Now, according to your complaint, Mr. Aziz, there was an entrance fee.
I paid that.
I don't see it where it said there was an entrance fee here. What was the entrance fee?
$50 or $100.
Well, who made the decision whether it was 50 or 100?
I did. Originally, how it was all going to be set up, it's going to be $150.
How come you didn't put that down here, sir?
Because I put on, the reason why I put it on there so more people can call. That's why I put on there for more info call.
Okay. And when people called, what did you tell them?
That's when I was telling them that it was $150. With the $150, that would take care of you, you know, far as for his drinks and everything, plus entering into the contest.
Okay. All right, Mr. Aziz. You got to the club on June 4th?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much did you pay when you got there?
$50.
Who did you give the money to?
The lady at the door.
What was the name of that lady?
That was the ticket lady. Her name was Lisa. And how it was set up, Lisa was to inform anyone who wanted to do the contest. That particular time, we has changed everything from the $150 to where that if you want to do the whole contest, it would be $100.
You can't do, Mr. Robertson.
He changed it too much.
Let me explain something to you. You can't do that, sir. What you're telling me is depending upon your mood, how you felt, or whatever. Sometimes you told people that it was $150. Then it was something else because you changed all the rules.
Well, all the rules...
Mr. Robertson, you can't do that, sir.
All the rules stayed the same. And how the whole contest was supposed to be set up was, I had 5 women. That was going to be a panel. You had to go up on the stage. You had to explain to them why you should be the Player of the Year. They was going to tally up their votes. That never happened.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mr. Robertson. How come it never happened?
Because the only person that really came, because after, when I got back to the club...
The only person that came was?
Right here.
Do you know what that makes him? You know what that makes him? Player of the Year.
Thank you. Go ahead, tell me. You want to tell me? He never told me.
Mr. Robertson, when you run a contest and you have somebody that enters, like he did, and paid his money, and you didn't get enough people so that it could be the kind of event you wanted, but there were a lot of people in your club that night, right? How many people were in the club?
I had...
How many people were in the club?
I had a lot of ladies at that particular time.
Right.
And then later on, that's when...
You had a lot of ladies. Would you say you had 200 people?
Something like that.
Line was around the corner.
Hey. You had 200 people, and was that a usual Saturday night, sir?
Something like that.
Did you have more ladies that Saturday night than you usually have?
Yeah, at that particular time.
You think that's because you advertised the Players' Ball?
Well, that was the catch, to get the ladies to
Right.
come.
So you got what your advertising paid for, Mr. Robertson. Now you have to pay up. The winner. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all. Thank
Parties
you.
are excused when they step out.
Alma Capo says Security company manager Nufris Val Vallis sprayed her outside a nightclub. Val claims that Alma spit on him.
Ms. Campos, the defendant is a security guard at a club, and it is your claim that he pepper sprayed you, causing you injury after an incident at the club where you were a patron along with your brother and some other people.
That's correct.
The defendant says that your brother and you were both drunk that evening, and it was necessary to use the pepper to preserve the peace. On what date did this incident occur, Ms. Campos?
On the night of Friday, May 15th, or the morning, Saturday morning, you could say. It was about 1 a.m.
Who had you been with that evening?
My brother and a couple of his coworkers.
You the brother?
Yes.
Step up, please. Tell me your name.
My name is Moises.
Okay. Why don't you tell me what happened?
We were on our way out of the club. My brother and his friends and myself, of course, were walking out. I stopped to get some food that they sell there at the nightclub. So I grabbed 4 burritos. And on my way out, my brother's now sort of a ways ahead of me, friends sort of behind. We're kind of shuffling our way out since it is a club, there's a lot of people. We're making our way out of the club into the parking lot, which is also an alley. And I'm outside in the parking lot, and I see a ruckus, something going on in the alley. And I notice that my brother is surrounded by a number of gentlemen. So the guys around my brother, the security are kind of, around him. And then I see Val with his arms crossed, sort of closest to me. So I ask him, hey, what's going on? Why are you guys doing this?
Well, you didn't ask quietly, because you would not have asked quietly. You would have been excited.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's make sure we get it all right.
Yes. That's correct, Your Honor. And his arms are crossed. He's looking at me with this snarl. All I remember, the last thing I remember is this smile. It's kind of like because I'm bored. Pulls up. I don't even see, I don't know what it is. Yes.
Is that what he said, or is that the look?
Both. The look, and he said those 3 words, because I'm bored. Next thing I know, I'm on my knees in a dress and heels. Face feels like it's on fire. I have no idea what just hit me until I realize, moments later, I'm just like, oh my God, what has happened?
Okay, so that's when you were sprayed and you fell.
That's when I was sprayed and I fell.
Mr. Campos, tell me what happened when you left the club.
As I walked out, I was pushed out by one of the bouncers because he was clearing everybody out, got me out.
Had you been asked to leave the club
I had
before?
been asked to leave.
Why? Do you know?
Just because it was the end of the club. Everybody was about to leave. I was finishing one of my drinks, and he didn't allow me to finish it, so.
I want you to be very accurate with me, Mr. Campos. So you were asked to leave the club, and you didn't leave right away? Is that what happened?
Right.
Okay. And you must have said to somebody in authority, some security person, when I finish my drink, I'll leave?
Yes.
I'm speculating, but I want you to tell me what happened,
Sure.
sir.
So I'm trying to finish my drink. He said, you got to leave now. I said, okay, let me finish my drink. He said, no, you're leaving now. So he pushes the drink out of my hand. It breaks, pushes me out.
Okay. So that's not just pushing you out because the club is closing. You had a confrontation with a security person inside.
Right.
And they pushed the drink out of your hand. The drink fell, and then they pushed you outside.
Correct.
Where was your sister at that time?
She was getting us food. So she was in that same lobby area.
Okay. And so now the security guard pushed you out, so you're out ahead of your sister.
Correct.
How many guards pushed you out?
1.
Who? You don't know?
His name. No.
And it's not this gentleman?
No.
Were you there that night?
Yes, Judge.
And it wasn't this gentleman? No. Okay. Do you know who that was?
Yes.
Who?
A guard named Dave.
Where is he?
He's not here today.
So Dave pushed you outside. Did you see that?
Yes, I was outside when he was brought out.
Explain to me how he was brought out.
Dave was holding on to this gentleman, and 2 other guards were with him as they escorted him out to the outside and asked me to remove him from the area because he refused to leave and was demanding another drink.
Because they had spilled his drink.
He was demanding another drink, and they took that drink, apparently, I found out later, and removed him and brought him outside.
No, that's not what happened. No, that's not what happened.
Okay.
And since Dave isn't here, you can't even suggest to me that's what happened because you weren't there. What he says was, he said, when I finish my drink, and Dave said to him, you're finished with your drink. And he said, I'm going to finish my drink. And the drink got spilled, and that's what caused the trouble. So now you're outside. Was it just Mr. who was with you, or were there other security guards there as well?
There were others around outside, yes.
So it was just Mr. that was bringing you out?
Correct.
How was he bringing you outside?
He grabbed me by the neck, pushing me with one hand, pushing me on the neck with another hand.
Okay. What happened when you got outside?
Got outside. I was very upset the way he treated me. We exchanged curse words toward each other. It was like a quick conversation because immediately he walked over to a group of security guards over next to where the parking lot is, right next to the club. And he said some words that I couldn't hear. It was kind of whispering or, face to face, and there were a lot of people around. And then that's when the next kind of phase happened.
Well, tell me about the next phase.
Once I was coming around toward the corner of J Street and 16th, I was walking.
So you were leaving the club?
Yes, now we're holding our food, walking away. My sister comes right behind me.
So at some point your sister caught up with you because she was
right
buying
behind
the
me.
food.
Correct.
And she got close enough to you to hand you a burrito.
Correct.
Is that correct?
No.
Not correct?
No.
Okay. And you saw the whole thing?
Yes, I was out in the parking lot.
You were out
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
parking lot?
Yes.
So I want you to tell me how he got the burrito.
As we were walking through the parking lot, he kept wanting to go back into the club and have a conversation with the other security officer. Kept calling him names and how he was going to physically hurt him. Dave.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. And we walked down the parking lot telling him, no, it's time to go, time to go. And we were shaking our pepper because he kept advancing us that he was going to hurt us. And was like, no, sir, you need to go.
You're not answering my question. My question is, when did his sister, who had purchased the food, give him the burrito?
After I had sprayed her, apparently.
After what?
After I had sprayed her with pepper spray.
After you sprayed her, she handed him a burrito?
She'd had the burrito in her hand, so that's the only time I could see that she would have gave it to him was when
So the answer is you don't know?
I don't know, ma'am.
Then say I don't know.
I don't know.
Perfect. Do you know?
Yes, ma'am.
Your last name is?
Macom, M-A-C-O-M.
Go ahead.
What happened, Mr. Vallis and I work together, and you got to understand when we're out in
I don't
front
have to
of- I'm
understand
sorry.
anything. I asked you a simple question.
The burrito was given when he first came up. He said he didn't want to leave. I told him, get off the property now. She came up. Val told her to get him off the property. She handed him the food and stuff. They started walking. As soon as we passed the police officers, then the verbal confrontation started.
Just a second. So they were walking away from the club.
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened when they were walking away from the club? Now they're leaving. Situation has been diffused. Sticks and stones will break my bones. They're leaving. Keep going.
The verbal confrontation started.
What verbal confrontation?
The continuous, I'm going to kick your F you. So we just followed at a distance. We were shaking our cans, saying, please leave.
They were leaving. Listen to me. They were leaving. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what you follow before shaking your cans? Because they were calling your names?
No, ma'am. He was calling everybody names.
Because he was calling whoever was in earshot names. They were leaving, walking away with their food in their hands. Why were you following them?
To ensure that it did not escalate, ma'am.
It wasn't escalating if you weren't there. Do you understand that? It wasn't going to escalate if you weren't there. You following me?
Yes, ma'am.
Sit down. Now, Mr. Villa. So now he's outside and she's outside, and before you pepper spray her, she hands him the food and they're walking away. Unless you're calling him a liar, is that what happened?
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened?
We were in the parking lot, and he kept wanting to go back to the club.
No, that's not what he said. Then he's a liar. He's calling people names and he's yelling and he's angry, but he's walking away according to your coworker. So are you calling him a liar?
No, ma'am.
Well, either he's a liar or you're a liar. Which one is it? Because he didn't say he was going back to the club. He said he was walking away.
He was back.
So he was walking away, cursing, but walking away with his sister. So which one is it? Was he walking away or was he walking back to the club?
He was backing away, walking backwards away from the club across the parking lot, ma'am.
So he's backing away and you're following him.
At a distance, ma'am, yes.
You're following him.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
So we're walking away, asking him to vacate as we're asking everybody else to leave
That's where
the
he's
club.
going. He's
Yes.
leaving. He's in the parking lot, walking towards a car.
And his sister walks up beside me, asked me what we're doing. I said, we
You mean
need
she
him to
comes
leave.
back?
She comes walking up beside me from behind me.
If they were leaving and walking together with her brother, and you're following them to the parking lot.
She had separated away from her brother
Yes. At
And-
what point did she separate away from her brother?
as we were walking across the parking lot.
She veered off?
Yes.
And who was with her brother?
He was by himself.
Go ahead.
And as she walked back up beside me, she asked what we were doing, and I said, we were asking your brother to leave. Please get him to leave the parking lot.
He was leaving. You think I believe you? I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Okay.
You may have had what you considered an unruly patron, but you don't know what went on inside. He tells me what went on inside, which sounds pretty reasonable. He was told to put down his drink. It was time to leave the club. He said, when I'm finished with my drink, I'll leave. And David said, put down your drink, you're leaving. So that's what he says, which I must believe because I don't have David here. And when you got outside, he was very belligerent. You were belligerent. Oh, yeah, I'd believe that you were cursing and that you were not behaving like a reasonable person, right? What doesn't make sense to me is why you and your cohorts followed him out to the parking lot, unless he just ticked you off with his bad language. And bad language does not require pepper spray, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Now, you want to tell me what you allege she did to you to require you to use what I perceive to be force with regard to her? What did she do to you?
She stepped up in front of me. She pushed me back with her hands. She had food in her mouth and spit food out, and when she went to slap me, that's when I reacted and blocked her from slapping me, and I pepper sprayed.
I don't believe you. How long have you been in the security business?
Since 2006.
Well, if you've been in the security business for just a short time, I'm going to give you some advice. What did you do before you went into the security business?
I worked for the state of California.
As what?
As a correctional officer.
Well, then you had a short fuse. Did you retire from that job?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes when you're dealing with unruly prisoners, which is supposed to diffuse the situation as best you can, but he's not an unruly prisoner. He's a patron in a bar. And you're not supposed to walk around and show your muscle. What you're supposed to do is try to diffuse the situation as best you can. This situation could have been easily diffused by just watching them get into a car and leave, which is where they were going. They were going there, according to you and according to him and according to logic. He was going with a lot of foul language. But that doesn't hurt you, and it doesn't hurt anybody in the bar, right? It may hurt their feelings, but it doesn't hurt them and doesn't require use of the kind of force that you used that day, which was to pepper spray her. I don't believe she went to hit you. Charging for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500 as requested, that's all.
Marilyn James says her ex-boyfriend's ex-girlfriend, Melanie Darling, owes for purposely ramming her car.
Well, you two ladies had the misfortune of choosing the same ex-boyfriend. And according to your complaint, Miss James, Miss Darling got in a snit about something, and she keyed your car and then rammed it.
Yes.
Causing some damage. Miss Darling says, well, it was just a little accident. Didn't mean to do any damage to your car. And she was more than willing to pay the deductible if you put the matter in through your insurance, and they paid the bill. Okay, Miss James, this boyfriend, how long ago was he your boyfriend?
5.5 years ago.
You don't have children together?
Nope. We are mutual friends.
You have a mutual friend, or
we're
you
in
are
the same circle of a lot of,
okay.
So we're around each other.
And how long ago, Miss Darling, was Don Juan your boyfriend?
About 1.5 years ago. This has nothing to do with him.
Okay. On what date did this incident happen with your car?
September 3rd.
Where were you?
I was over at a mutual friend's house. He was having a housewarming. We were all over there in the basement. We heard a lot of noise, and we're like, what's going on upstairs? And she comes downstairs, and she walks around, and she's laughing, and her friend comes downstairs, and she says, Melanie, come on, let's go. So she started laughing. She says, ha, 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 I'm not going to do anything. So they go upstairs, and she's still arguing, yelling, screaming upstairs.
Who's yelling?
She is. Her witness is upstairs talking to her, trying to calm her down. The boyfriend, the ex-boyfriend, he's on the stairs, and she calls down and says, do you want to speak with her?
What's his first name?
We wanted to keep his name
the
out
ex-boyfriend.
of it. Ex-boyfriend. We wanted to keep his name out of it.
It's just ex-boyfriend is 2 words. If I had a first name, then I could just use 1 word. We could save a lot of time. Go ahead.
She calls down here and says, do you want to speak with her? He says no. So she is mad because he doesn't want to speak to her. So she goes outside, and 20 minutes later, my witness comes downstairs and tells me that she just...
Don't tell me what she told you. Which witness came downstairs? You. Step up, sir. Tell me your name.
Juwan Hamilton.
You don't mind if I use your name, do you?
No.
All right, Mr. Hamilton. On the 3rd, you were outside.
Yes.
What was the defendant saying?
The defendant was just basically saying, why is she here? And she just basically wanted to talk to our friend, which is my friend too, and their ex-boyfriend.
Ex-boyfriend?
Right. Okay, so she wanted him to come upstairs and talk to her, and he just all of a sudden came upstairs, and when he came upstairs, she went outside. She followed him outside, and the crowd followed him outside.
Did you go outside?
About 5 to 10 minutes later. When I went outside, what I observed was she walked towards the street. I guess her shoe was in the street, flip-flop, something of that nature. And Marilyn's car was parked 3 to 5 feet away from where she was picking up her shoe. So she said, whose car is this? This her car? She asked me. I said, no response. Then she asked other people, and she took her keys and just keyed her from the rear to the front of the driver's side.
You saw that?
Yes.
Then what happened?
Then I was amazed, and I looked at everybody else that was out there, and she did it again, going back the other way. She walked away and stormed and got in her car. Her car was parked across the street, and she got into the car, and she was with another friend of hers, and they pulled into our friend's driveway. They got out. Commotion was going on again. Don't know the words verbatim. And then after that, she got into the car again and said, well, I'm about to hit this B's car. And she reversed out of the driveway. She put it head on in front of Marilyn's car. And she put it in drive, and she sideswiped the side of it all the way up to maybe, her car was maybe adjacent or parallel to Marilyn's car.
Who was in the car with you?
Brooke, she's not here. She couldn't make it.
She couldn't make it. Is she?
She had work. She couldn't get off of work.
You don't work?
Yes.
You work?
Yeah, I work.
Everybody can get off from work except the lady who was in the car with you. Is there anything funny? You hear anything funny going on here?
I hear a lot of funny things going on.
Just a sec. I just wondered why you were laughing.
Oh.
I just answered my questions. I ask questions, you answer them. When you answer them, you stand up.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I was there.
Over there. Name?
General Lucas.
Were you in the car with Miss Darling?
No, I wasn't, Judge.
Were you at the party in the basement?
Yes, I was.
Were you outside after the commotion started outside?
No.
Did you see Miss Darling's car hit Miss James' car?
No, I didn't.
Good. You may have a seat now. So, Miss Darling, let me understand this. You brought a witness who was not outside, who did not see your car, hit Miss James's car, and you left the witness home who was in the car with you at the time you hit Miss James's car, something that you claim was an accident.
Right.
That witness you didn't bring, correct?
Right, yeah.
Good. Now, who is this person?
Well, she's my witness. Melanie was drunk that night.
Just a second. Was she there that night?
Yes.
Inside or outside?
She was in the basement with me, and when Joanna came and told me that she rented my car, she came upstairs and she called the police, and she was there when she tried to run me over.
Tell me your name.
My name is Erica Stiegel.
You know all these people?
I know of the defendant. I don't know her personally.
You were in the house, though, when she came in?
Yes.
When Miss Darling came, did she appear to you to be intoxicated?
Yes.
What indication did you have of her being intoxicated?
Well, first, when she came in, we heard like a lot of like heels like stumping, so we thought it was multiple people. And, we looked up because we heard people at the steps, and somebody grabbed her, and all we seen was legs. And so when they finally let her go, she came down, and, she walked around, and she talked to the owner of the house, and she went back upstairs. And from that, little commotion, you could tell she was drunk.
You did not see any collision with Miss Darling's car and Miss James' car. Miss James indicates that you saw something happen afterwards.
Yes.
Would you tell me what you observed?
Well, after we, observed the car, we were right behind a police station, so we're about to just walk up to the police station. And so we were walking along the sidewalk, and she just came flying around the corner, and everybody just got out the way. And so one of the guys that was at the housewarming came up in his truck, and he was like, guys, just get in the car, I'll take you up there. And so I guess she went around the corner, she came back around, and she swerved, tried to hit the truck. We had to go up on the grass, and he just took us to the police station.
Do you have a police report?
I do. I also
see
have
it,
pictures.
please. Police report, I'll take a look at the photographs as well.
Okay.
You were the witness, Mr. Hamilton, is that right? The police
Yes, ma'am.
indicate that you told them what happened immediately that day.
Yes.
All right, now, Miss Darling, let me hear your version of the events.
Okay. First of all, it's when I came over there, I came over with my friend. That's my best friend's house that we went over. Me and my ex-boyfriend, I broke up maybe a couple of days before that. Has nothing to do with her. I would never even think of her when I think of him. She used to mess with him. That used to be her boyfriend or whatever too. So I wouldn't get into that.
Miss Darling.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. It's making me mad, this whole thing, because they're trying to make me
I don't care if it's making you mad. It's making me mad.
I just want to express my feelings on national TV.
Listen to me.
Huh?
You want to express your feelings?
Okay, let me tell you. This is what happened. I went over her house. I got in an argument. I got in an argument with my ex-boyfriend. Went outside. I got in my car. I was stopping embarrassed, so I jumped in my car. My car was not parked on the other side of the street. It was actually like in the middle of the street. My keys were inside my car.
Just a second. Hold on a second. Your car was parked in the middle of the street.
I got out. We got out because of my friend.
I'm speaking. I have questions. As you're telling me your story, I have to interrupt you. That means you stop talking. Why was your car parked in the middle of the street?
My car was parked in the middle of the street because,
with the keys in it?
Because somebody was in the car. I took my car over there to drop my friend's car off.
Who was in the car?
The house we were over, that's my friend's baby dad. We were dropping her car off at the house. So she stayed in the car, and my other friend, Brooke, was in the car too. And then me and Brooke went in, then we came out. When I came out, I was arguing with my ex-boyfriend. Then I jumped in the car. Then the keys were in the car. Turned it back on or whatever and like pulled off. When I pulled off, I heard something like hit the side of my car. Didn't hit all of it either. It was just like a side swipe real quick or whatever, like hit the tire and pulled off. Then I'm like, oh, we hit something. We stop, look in the rear view, it's her car. So we make a circle around the corner, and when we come back in the corner, I'm looking at her car. That's when...
Just a second. Wait, listen, stop. You recognized that you hit something.
Right.
Stop speaking! When you hit something, you stop. You don't go round. Now, when you realize that you hit a car, and you didn't stop right away, according to you, you did eventually come back. Did you?
Yeah, I seen her car.
Just
right. Yes.
The answer is yes. You knew whose car it was. What did you do?
I was gonna go talk to her.
Don't tell me what you were going to do.
I sat in my car and was trying to get out to talk to her, and Juwan and the owner of the house came over to the car, and this is Juwan. She called the police on you. If I was you, I'd go in there and fight her and blah, 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 whatever. And then the other guy's telling me to stay in the car, don't get out the car, go home, call her tomorrow, whatever, tell her what happened because they're mad.
Are you employed?
Yes.
You have a cell phone?
I couldn't find my cell phone.
You couldn't find your cell phone?
I threw it at my ex-boyfriend.
Oh, no. You can always find your cell phone.
No, I threw it at my ex-boyfriend. I didn't find it till the next day.
Really?
Right.
So you were really angry. You mean you threw something at him? How many things did you throw at him?
A couple of fists and a cell phone.
Yeah. Really? So in addition to throwing the cell phone at him, you punched him.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Right.
That was before you got into the car that was parked in the middle of the street?
Right.
Good. What you indicate is you were prepared to pay the deductible on her insurance.
Well, I told her I'd help her pay for it. I felt responsible. And
you
I
are responsible. What do you mean you felt responsible? You are responsible.
Well, that's maybe why I was feeling like it, because I was responsible, right? So, anyways, I told her that I'd give her the money, and I'm like, was your deductible 100, 200, 500? And she said, oh, it's 500. And then she told me she had to make a couple more phone calls.
Why? Listen to me. Why in the world would she report this matter to her insurance company? You pay the deductible, 100, 200, 500. Her insurance rates go up for the next 5 years. Why would she do that when you hit her car in a fit of anger? Now, you may not have been angry with her car, but you were certainly angry enough with the boyfriend out there to punch him and to throw at least your cell phone at him. Why would she want to report it to her insurance company?
Well, why did she agree to it?
I don't believe she did.
That's why he's here. That's her
Listen,
friend.
Mr. Smiley, I wouldn't believe it if he told me that today was Tuesday. A little too happy for me.
Just a happy person, Judge.
Get unhappy.
Okay.
Get unhappy. Shh. Your temper, my dear, is going to cost you $2,568. That's what tempers cost.
That's not
an attitude. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
20-year-old Michael Schaefer is suing ex-roommate, 22-year-old Jacob Tyler, for damage to his property. Michael claims Jacob removed items from the apartment and left them outside.
All right, so I have some preliminary questions. Let's listen up very carefully, and let's start with the ground rules, which are everybody tells me the truth, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You two were roommates for
Yes.
a period of time. Which one was the neat one?
I was.
And who was the slob?
He was.
I wouldn't say I was a slob. I wasn't as anal retentive as Jacob.
He had roommates that were.
This is your complaint. Mr. Tyler moved out for the end of the lease.
Yes.
Mutual?
Yes.
Yes.
The lease was to expire on May 31st of this year.
Yes, ma'am.
On May 31st, you came back.
To verify.
I like to tell the story
Okay,
myself.
I'm
I like to
sorry.
do this as a one-man show, except that I need sometimes some input from you.
Okay.
You came back to ensure that he moved out on time because you were still responsible on the lease, and they had your security deposit.
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
And when you came back, you found Mr. Schaefer not being a slob, a little disorganized. All of his stuff is still there. The place is a pigsty, and you start to clean it up.
Yes.
He leaves. Where did you go on May 31st, by the way, when you left?
It was about 10 o'clock at night. I went home to go to sleep.
You went home where?
To my parents' house. I moved back in with my parents.
When did you move back in with your parents, Mr. Schaefer?
I had been moving things into their house over the course of
When was the last time you slept in this apartment?
the morning of May the 31st.
Now, you have to be very careful because I'm going to put you in between a rock and a hard place, sir. When you went back to your parents' house to sleep at 10 p.m. on May 31st, you were aware of the fact that the next day you were supposed to be totally out of the apartment, or midnight that night,
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
But you went home at 10 o'clock,
Yes.
and you still had a lot of stuff there.
Yes.
Well, that's why you're here, Mr. Schaefer, because it is your claim that you had a lot of stuff there that he took out and set outside, and it was either ruined by the rain or stolen. So it's a lot of stuff. Let's see how much stuff you say was there. $713 worth of stuff.
About
So why
400
di-
of which was the TV.
Why didn't you take that stuff and have it out when you were supposed to?
I hadn't realized how much stuff I had accumulated. I didn't realize how long
You
it would
mean
take.
it just came up and bit you on the behind? And if you did, why didn't you, instead of going home at 10 o'clock at night, Mr. Schaefer, stay up until midnight and get all the stuff out of there?
I was very tired.
That's too bad.
I figured we could settle up with the apartment. We could pay for an extra day just to get the rest of my stuff
You
out.
weren't going to pay for anything because his security deposit was his.
We would have settled afterward.
I don't believe you. And after you got your stuff out, stop playing with your papers, Mr. Anal Retentive.
Sorry.
You were supposed to clean it after you got your junk out.
I had been cleaning that day, and Jacob actually came by the apartment to clean and to patch holes that he had punched in the walls because he had quite an anger problem.
Just a second. So you had been cleaning that day?
Cleaning
Is
and
that
moving
what you're
it.
telling me? You had been cleaning that day?
Yes, I vacuumed the carpets. I was moving my stuff out, just going through the whole process.
Mr. Schaefer, you're full of baloney. Your stuff wasn't out of there. As far as I'm concerned, the landlord could have taken your stuff and thrown it in a dumpster at midnight. He's not responsible for your stuff after midnight.
I cleared it with the apartment manager the following morning.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Where is the manager? I want to interview the manager.
We don't have that manager
Well,
here.
that's too bad because that's hearsay. When a lease is up, it's up.
Before I left the apartment, Jacob was patching the holes up, and I had said, you know, I'm going home. I'll be back in the morning for the rest of my things. Don't touch anything. He said, okay, fine, and we left it at that. He
Is
didn't.
that what happened, Mr. Tyler?
Yeah.
What happened?
I told him that it was unacceptable because when I got there, the fridge still had food in it. There was no cleaning done in the kitchen. The vacuum that was there wasn't even being used on the carpet. I cleaned a bathroom that they never cleaned since we moved in there. It was beyond filthy. I came back to actually patch up the holes in the wall.
What were the holes in the wall from, sir?
From me in parties that they had been at, and I got upset because there was all these kids that were underage drinking, and I have pictures to prove that they were.
Do you have any proof of what this place looked like when you got there?
I have a witness, but she's in the Air Force boot camp right now, and I can't.
Can't help you there with that.
I know.
have no
I'm sorry.
control over the Air Force.
Yes, ma'am, I know.
I like to think I would like to, but I don't. Mr. Tyler,
Yes, ma'am.
you had $440 in security deposit.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get any back?
I had 140, and I have a copy showing the amount which was taken out.
Can I see that, please?
And also at the top, ma'am, this is the part where I had the power turned off, and Mr. Schaefer was supposed to get it turned on in his name. He didn't.
We never-
so
we never
the
talked about
apartment
that at
took
all.
care of it. The apartment charged me for the water, the trash, the electric that he accumulated.
So you lost your security deposit?
Yes, ma'am. And the added rent was for...
Now, did you patch up the walls?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Because there's nothing here about patched walls.
I have this also that says that there's new contact, lots of resident damage into...
Well, it doesn't say here anything about charging you for holes in the wall.
No, that wasn't...
Which means that
they
you
were
patched
charging...
them. I'm speaking. Listen to what I'm saying to you. It's not here to hurt you. I said there is nothing that indicates from the apartment complex that they are charging you for holes in the wall. That would be a good thing. Then you say, you are right. You are correct, Judge.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Where did you put whatever stuff of his was left outside?
I moved it underneath the stairwell of the upstairs. I covered it with blankets. I wrapped his VCR in bubble wrap. Unfortunately, he said that it rained the next morning in the area.
What happened when you came back the next day? So first of all, what time did you come back to the apartment the next day?
About 9 in the morning.
And what did you find when you got there?
I came there with my girlfriend. This is Nicole. We came there with her truck to get the rest of my stuff. And we came up to the apartment.
Just a second. Step up. Your last name is?
Sierra.
Miss Sierra, when did Mr. Schaefer pick you up?
I came to pick him up with my truck at a little bit before 9 a.m. on June the 1st to go retrieve the rest of our stuff.
Had you been there? What do you mean the rest of your stuff? Had you been living there too?
No, I just...
Some of her stuff was in there. I'm sorry.
Don't speak.
My couch cushions and my vacuum was there.
So my question is, had you been living there?
No, ma'am.
Had you been staying there?
Yeah.
Don't play with me. Had they used your truck to move the other items? Don't look, listen to me. Don't look at him. Don't you have an independent recollection of this? I asked you, had they used your truck to move out the other items?
Yes, some of the other stuff.
How many days had they used your truck?
Probably about 4 days.
Good. And where were you the night of May 31st?
I was at home.
Doing what?
Resting. I work 30 hours a week, and so I was just...
Oy! My God, 30 hours a week! Oh, you must be exhausted. How old are you?
I'm 23.
23, and you work 30 hours
and I
a week?
go to school full-time.
Good. What school do you go to?
I just graduated from the North Lake Community College in Dallas, Texas.
Good. So you graduated from college, and I know from college. I mean, I know how many hours a day one goes to college, so 30 hours a week working you can manage. So you were exhausted.
I wasn't exhausted.
What about you? How exhausted were you? Where do you work?
I worked at Metro Volkswagen.
And you also go to school full-time?
No, I'm not in school currently.
You work 40 hours a week?
Yes, ma'am.
So you work 40 hours a week and don't do anything else. You've got a girlfriend who works 30 hours a week and goes to school full-time, so you should have been pretty wide awake on the 31st. I don't see what you needed to go to sleep for at 10 o'clock at night. You have no case, sir. He is not obligated to risk his security deposit because you decided you needed an early nap. He secured your stuff as best as he possibly could. If it was ruined by the rain, that's your problem. You should have had it out by May 31st. You owe him $440 for security deposit because you lived like pigs. Then you have to pay for that. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Kim and Lon Weishart say Kim's son, Ralph Smith, owes for the balance on a truck he totaled.
Whose son is he?
My son.
Well, we have a son and we have a stepson.
That's my son, his stepson.
How long have the two of you been married?
15 years in September.
And how old are you?
23.
How long have you been together?
16 years.
So you were a little boy, so I can understand when you said he's ours. According to your complaint, you co-signed a car for him.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How old were you when they co-signed for this car loan?
20.
You don't have to reach in. This modern technology will actually pick up your voice if you stand straight. Now, the agreement that you had with your parents was that you were going to make the payments on the car. Is that right?
For the first year.
I'm going to get back to your year agreement in 1 second, because that sounds sort of interesting. In any event, what happened was he made sporadic payments on the car, and then he totaled the car.
So what actually happened was we co-signed for the truck for him. He was doing very well at that time. They had just had their son, bought a new home, had a good job, and was doing very well. So we co-signed.
He totaled the car, and you're making payments on it, on the loan.
That's correct.
Now, you want him to take over those payments. That's what the case is about, right?
Yes, about paying his truck payments.
Right. They co-signed the car, and you're going to convince me, sir, why I should believe that you only agreed to make the payments for the first year.
Yes, I am.
And I tell you, I am all ears.
Okay, first my parents flew into Tennessee from Texas, and he asked me, did we want to go out and look at trucks? Because my car seat wouldn't fit in my car, really, for my child, and his golf clubs wouldn't fit in there. So anyway, we go to look at cars, and he's saying he likes this truck and asked me if I like it. And I say, yeah, I like it, you know. And he's telling me how I need a truck for my car seat, for his golf clubs, for when they come into town, they can drive it, and I could drive it while they weren't in town.
Keep going. Come on.
That's it. I paid the first year's payments. I had money saved up from income taxes, and I told him I could make the first year's payment, and he said, don't worry about it, we'll make the rest.
How many vehicles do you have?
2.
One for you and one for?
Them.
One for them?
Yeah, the wrecked one.
Oh, we're not talking about the truck. How many vehicles did you have at the time that you were making the payments?
I had one before the truck, including the truck, too.
And what did you do with the second one?
I sold it so I could put the money down for the truck.
Good. And did you put the money down for the truck?
Yes, I did.
How much?
$1,000.
Were you supposed to keep the insurance on the truck?
Yes, I was.
Did you do that?
No.
Why not?
Because I canceled it about 3 weeks before I had the accident.
Why?
Because I had bought a new house, and I'd rather have my house than my truck, so I can at least sleep in it.
Well, that was ridiculous. You don't drive a car without insurance. What would happen if you hit somebody and really hurt them?
I would be in trouble.
Right. And what do you think's going to happen to you today because you didn't have insurance?
I don't know. I guess that's up to you.
You're right.
So we have pictures of the truck. We also have a copy of the loan agreement and then where we paid the truck payments from our checking, if you would like to see any of those.
I also have some evidence also. They had co-signed for a car, the car that I had sold. That's what I also had told him. That car ran fine. I didn't need another vehicle, but...
You just told me that the car seat for your baby didn't fit in your car.
It did. He said it didn't fit good
No,
enough.
you told me it didn't fit.
It fit. I mean, we had to drive him around for a few months before then, so he had to fit somehow.
Not necessarily.
Well, you think we rode down the road with him in our lap?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Your Honor, that was casual conversation when we came in to visit into town. We were going somewhere, and he was struggling to get the car seat in the car. And that's when I said, wow, you just need to go get a new vehicle. You know, I recommended getting a truck with an extended cab as well so that it could put the baby seat in and out of the truck easily.
Who did you...
Pile of rocks.
Were you drunk?
No.
Did you fall asleep?
No. It's the first time I had been down this road, and we were going to where we live.
Well, a pile of rocks doesn't move, sir. This is a lot of damage to do on the car.
It was summer, and the trees were sprung out, obviously, and they have a stop sign, a head sign, and it's only about 3 feet before the stop sign. With the trees bloomed out, you couldn't really see it at nighttime, so I went to stop. And
so whose fault do you think that is?
Mine. I have the car anyway, like I was saying, that I had before. They co-signed for it. I paid every payment on it. I had 1 year lease, and I paid it off in 10 months.
Well, sure. You know why? Because you still have it.
Why would I not pay the truck if...
Because of something that you just told me, sir, which was that you wrecked it. And you wrecked it at a time when you had no insurance on it, and you didn't have insurance on it because you chose to put money into your house rather than pay your car insurance. That's why you didn't pay them. That's the difference. Did I just answer your question?
No.
Well, I think I answered it. You may not like the answer, but I answered it.
That's not why I didn't pay the payments. I did not pay the payments because I was only supposed to pay 1 year, and that's what I paid.
Did you make any payments, sir, after you totaled the truck?
No, I didn't, because my
Did you make payments before you totaled the truck?
Yes, I did. But it was 1 year, and it had just so happened that...
You mean just serendipitously? You wrecked the truck on the first year anniversary. That was serendipitous.
It was a month after. It was a month after he wrecked it. And, Your Honor, for that month of May, which made it up to a year, he didn't make that payment either. He was having a hard time at home with his family. They weren't getting along too well.
Why weren't you getting along too well with your family?
Because we were pinched for money. That's why I had to cancel my insurance. We wasn't making bills. We were stressed out.
Well, that's unfortunate. Did you buy a house that was too much for you?
No, I did not. I bought a truck that was too much for me for 1 year, I guess, and didn't pay the insurance.
No, because if you were stressed out, then you're stressed out over more than just a truck payment.
Exactly.
Then what you do is say, listen, I have to sell this truck, and I have to buy transportation because we need transportation, but I can't afford this truck. You don't just stop paying. Does your wife work?
Yes, she does.
And you work?
Yes, I do.
How much do you earn?
$390 a week.
And your wife?
She earns $500 a week.
And your mortgage payment?
Zero. $350. We rent now. We sold that house.
Did you make a profit when you sold it?
Yes, I did.
And didn't pay a payment then either.
I bought a new
tax
vehicle.
Check, not a new vehicle,
well,
$1,400.
Listen, There's no question in my mind that it was very difficult for you to come here to sue him. How much did you have to pay on the truck?
We paid approximately up to $6,000. The first year from May of 05 to 06, we made payments on the truck every month. He had called.
When did he total the truck?
In June of 05.
So where have you been the last 2 years?
Well, it's kind of hard. I mean, you know, you love your children and you want what's best for them and you try to help them. And we had told him a couple times down the road, you know, when we felt like him and Susie were getting their lives together, that, hey, don't worry about paying us what you owe us on the truck. Just start paying the payments now and we'll wipe the slate clean if you start paying the payments. And we've done that a couple of times for him.
4.
And he always says that he'll pay, and then when that month rolls around, he doesn't. So, and it's hard for a parent to take their child.
I don't say that. I never said I'd pay a payment after that year.
Oh, sure you did. It's ridiculous to think otherwise.
Not say that.
Ridiculous to say otherwise. So the total amount of the payments was $13,263. Is that right? And he paid a year's worth.
He paid a year's worth.
And that's
just
from
short of
04.
1 month.
I got right here what I paid.
It was
Where
actually
is the
11
truck?
months.
Where is the truck now? It was totaled?
It's sitting in my sister's driveway.
In her yard.
Her yard.
Where did you get this figure of $3,696 from?
Well, this is why, Your Honor. From May of 05, when we started making the payments, he called us at the end of May and said, look, I'm not going to be able to make May's payment. And we said, all right, we'll help you out. By the time it was ready to make that payment, June had rolled in, and we said, okay, we'll make June for you as well. So there was 2 months, because we know they were struggling a little bit. And shortly after, he wrecked his truck. He totaled it. You know, he told us a few days later that he totaled it and that he had been drinking, so.
I want to know where you get the $3,696. Get there. Well, get there faster.
Okay.
It's $221.05 a month. There were a few months that he said that he was going to make the payment, did not make the payment, so there's late fees and things like that added on to that. So from the time that he wrecked the truck, which was June
of 05.
05.
Yes, ma'am.
It was July 1st.
And it may be in July 1st. The end of June, maybe July 1st. But
Go ahead.
So anyways, from that point on, Your Honor, that's where we came up with the figure.
Got it.
I have all my paperwork for the payments. I was only supposed to make 1 year's payment. I have them, and I have the paperwork where they co-signed before, and I made every payment and even paid it off.
I believe you made every payment. You also have the car.
I don't have the car. It's sold.
What you gave me here is the payments from your bank to West State Farm Bank. Is that where the truck was financed?
Yes, State Farm.
Very good. Listen, don't co-sign for anybody anymore, even your kid.
Yeah, this is our second time.
Huh?
This is our oldest daughter got us as well.
They probably made the same deal with her.
There's no deals. It's just trying to help your children.
Don't take advantage of your parents. They seem like very nice people.
I'm not taking advantage of them.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,696. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Juliet Basasio is suing her ex-boyfriend, Omar Pierce, for unpaid rent and a security deposit. Omar says Juliet is angry that he went back to his wife.
Ms. Basasio, this very unhappy gentleman who's standing next to you, Mr. Pierce, used to be your boyfriend.
Yes.
Even though he was married. And you have a child together.
Yes.
Mistake number 2. And it is your claim that the two of you leased an apartment for 6 months because you claim Mr. Pierce wanted to move out of your parents' home where the two of you were living with your baby and have a place of your own. You signed the 6 months lease. He didn't really hold up his end of the rent, which you had agreed to, and then he moved out, leaving you stuck with the lease. Mr. Pierce says that you couldn't rip him from the heart of his wife and 2 sons. And that he decided to go home, and that he paid rent while he lived there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did I explain your position, sir?
No, I don't owe any of the money.
What?
I don't owe any money.
Oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. When did he live in your parents' house?
The first time he moved in was in May.
Of 2006?
Yes.
How old is your baby?
He's 2.5. He'll be 3 in October.
Is that your only child?
Yes.
Why would you have a baby with somebody who's married?
Because he lied and told me he wasn't married. He told me he had just separated and he was divorced from his wife 6 months prior to when I met him.
He said he was separated or divorced?
The same difference. He said...
No, it's not the same difference. Separated is not divorced.
At first, he didn't have a wife. I would have never went with him if he told me that he was married.
And when did he finally tell you he was married?
He never did. He never told me that he was married. I had to find out from his wife that he was married.
And it was after I had my son.
Was he living with you?
No, he wasn't.
Why wasn't he living with you?
I don't know.
Did you ask him why we're not living together?
No.
Did you ask him why we're not married?
No, he knows that I wouldn't want to marry him. I told him, I don't want to get married. Why do I need to get married? If I live with somebody, why would I need to get married?
Well, why if you're fighting with somebody? You're right, you shouldn't marry somebody you're fighting with, right? You also shouldn't make a baby with them.
That was before I found out that he was married.
What difference does it make if he's married or not? If you don't want to get married and you're not getting along with him.
We were not fighting before that. Everything was fine before that. There was no fighting or nothing.
You mean everything was fine until you got pregnant?
Yes. Well, he was okay up until the month I had my baby.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a receiving clerk.
Where?
I don't want to say.
In what city?
In San Marcos.
How long have you been a shipping clerk for the company that you work for now?
Close to a year.
And before that, where did you work?
Oh, I didn't work.
Huh?
I didn't work. Oh, I did work, but in numerous places.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
I work in the emergency room.
What kind of work does the plaintiff do?
She works in a hospital, I guess.
What do you mean you guess?
Why I see her go there. I mean, yeah, she works in a hospital. Excuse me, I don't want to be...
Yeah, don't be a smart aleck, sir. You know, you're having trouble just keeping your head above water here. And what prompted you to decide to get an apartment with him? Because now you're living with your parents and your son, right? Everything is nice. The baby has some stability, live at home, so he's got grandparents, nice. Now you know he's married. And he says, let's get an apartment together.
He's the father of my child. I'm going to give him a chance. If I'm going to want him in my son's life, I'm going to give him that chance. He told me that he was in the process already of divorcing his wife. 2 weeks before we signed our lease, before we were going to move in together, he told me that his divorce was going to be final. That obviously
So you signed the lease. Can I see the lease, please?
Yes, you may.
November of 2006 is when you started. When did he move out?
In January of 2007.
So he lived there with you for 2 months, right?
Yes.
What?
We moved in October, and I gave her rent for October.
It says that the rent is due the first date of each month beginning November 2nd.
Thank you. It's November.
Your lease started November 2nd.
Yes.
2006. Why did you move out?
I went back with my wife and kids, went home.
You went back with your wife and kids. Well, what did you expect her to do with this apartment?
Well, she told me before you even moved into the place that I can go back to my family, go back to break the lease and go back to my family.
Just a second. She what? Say it again to me,
She told
so
me-
I believe it.
She told me that if it didn't work, I could break the lease.
And go back to your wife.
Yes.
Those words never came out of a woman's mouth.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Not her mouth.
Thank you. Especially
Not
with
just
somebody with a kid.
Just a second. Don't it? Look at me. Those words not only didn't come out of her mouth, they didn't come out of any woman's mouth in history. If it doesn't work out between us, you can break the lease and go back to your wife.
Yeah, because she knew how I felt about my wife and her.
What, are you crazy? Why did you sign this lease, Mr. Pierce?
Because I wanted it to be free. I thought it was going to work out between me and her.
Because what?
I wanted it to be free. I wanted, because we would have fun. I thought it would be, work out between me and Juliet.
So you wanted to have fun. You couldn't have fun in her parents' house.
We agreed to move out so we could be together.
You wanted to be free.
Yeah, well,
You wanted to be able to drink and smoke and do what you wanted to do and have a good time. You couldn't do that at her parents' house. And her parents probably looked at you like I'm looking at you and saying, why? I raised this nice girl and she brings me home a bum. Why? What happened? Mr. Pierce, you have a responsibility to pay her for the remainder of the lease, your half. Do you want me to explain why to you, sir?
No.
No?
Well, because I don't owe her any money. When I stayed there, she said that it was okay, because she knew I had to support my other kids.
You know, when I was a kid, my grandmother used to tell me that, God one day God gave you a heart, one day a soul, one day you got a brain, one day you got... It was absent. He was absent. You picked the wrong day to be absent, Mr. Pierce. Listen to what I'm saying to you, sir. You have 3 children. You made 3 children. You can't afford to have 3 children. You probably can't even afford to take care of yourself. So you have to find some other hobby other than having children. That's number 1. Number 2, sir, look over here. You signed a lease. That has meaning. Whether you pay taxes or not is not my issue. Signing this contract is my issue. Do you understand, sir?
Yes.
Signing this contract obligated her to pay this rent. Now, if they can't come after you because they can't find you, that is a problem. Do we understand each other, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
You understand me loud and clear now, Mr. Pierce?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. I'm glad now we understand each other, sir. So when you sign a lease for 6 months with the mother of your child and take her out of a home where she's living relatively comfortably, rent-free, and then you get an epiphany and want to be near your other baby's mother, that doesn't mean you are absolved from paying her for the rent. Do you understand, sir? If Uncle Sam can't find you, I can. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. The rent is $825. According to your complaint, he was supposed to pay $400. $400 times 4 equals $1,600. That's for the 4 months remaining on the lease after you moved out, sir. Do you understand?
Yes.
Goodbye. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's right.
19-year-old Chris Alford is suing his ex-girlfriend, 19-year-old Ashley Griffin, for a loan to pay her rent. Ashley says Chris gave her the money.
Mr. Alford, the defendant used to be your girlfriend. According to your complaint, you are no longer involved in a relationship, but at some point prior to your breaking up, you loaned her $300. You want that money back.
Yes. This was after we broke up. Like, we broke up, then she called me.
So you lent her the money after you were no longer together?
Yes.
When did you lend her the money, sir?
I sent it the 1st of July.
Tell me about that.
All right, we broke up with her when she came up.
She came up where?
To Philly. We was no longer seeing each other.
You live in Philadelphia?
Yes.
You live where?
Florida.
And when did she come to Philadelphia?
Like the beginning of June.
Who did she stay with?
Her mom, I guess.
Your mom lives in Philadelphia?
Outside of Philadelphia.
Stop moving up and down. When she came up to Philadelphia to visit her mother, and you, I assume.
I saw her a couple hours.
That's not true,
Were you
Your
still
Honor.
dating?
Then, yeah.
What caused you to stop seeing each other in a romantic way?
Chris Alford says ex-girlfriend Ashley Griffin owes for a loan to pay her rent. Chris also says Ashley is a two-timer.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, she missed her flight, right? In the morning time, she missed her flight.
She missed her flight going back to Florida?
Yes.
When was that?
I don't know the exact date.
It was sometime in July.
He said you went up in June.
No, it was like the middle of July sometime.
Did you miss your flight going home?
Yes, ma'am.
When you were in Philadelphia?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What happened when she missed her flight, sir?
She missed her flight, and she called some guy and was like, I missed my flight. It cost $50 or something to pay the balance or something. And I was like, who's that on the phone? And I turned around, whatever, because I was half asleep when all this happened. She hit me, whatever, like, oh, I missed my flight. Da-da-da-da.
So what you're saying is she was sleeping over at your house?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, then you were with her more than just a couple of hours during this visit to Philadelphia.
Okay.
All right, so you decided you didn't want to see her anymore because she was talking to somebody else and borrowed $50 from somebody else. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Mr. Alford? Could we get to it, please?
All right.
Is that what happened?
Other stuff too, but that's what started it all.
And then this other young man sent you money or called up and said, add the ticket on his credit card, and you went home.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why you needed this $300, Miss Griffin.
Can I start from the beginning?
No.
Well, because I was going back home in July. So I had already bought my ticket and I was short for my rent. So I asked him for the money. I didn't say, can I borrow it? I asked him, can I have it? And he said, yeah. And he gave me the money.
So you needed the $300 for rent because you had spent the money.
But I was off. And we spent more than just that night together. He picked me up from the airport and I was with him that day. And we went to go pick up his witness.
Tell me about when you called him and asked him for the money.
Well, I called him and I pretty much said I needed the money for the rent because I was short.
Where were you when he gave you the money?
I was at my house.
In Florida?
Yes, ma'am. He Western Union me the money.
You have the receipt for Western Union?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? Mr. Alford, I'd like you to tell me about the conversation that you had with her about the $300, please.
All right, I'm in the car, me and 3 friends of mine, and my phone rings. And I put it on speaker because I couldn't drive and talk. So I'm talking to her, and she's like, oh, my God, I don't have enough money to pay for my rent, this, and that. And I'm like, at first I'm like, oh, like, what am I supposed to do about that? Then she said, would it be possible if you could send me $300
and I will pay you back next Friday on my paycheck. Everybody in the car heard her say that.
Don't say what they heard. Did you hear it?
I heard it clearly. It's right here. The phone was right here. I was listening, talking like, all right, well, I can't spare it. I mean, so you got to send it back next Friday. And you can see on Western Union, date was July 1st. If she just now said she was in Philly.
You're absolutely right, sir. It was July 1st.
I said he sent me the money July 1st. I said I went home after July 1st.
Are you telling me you went home and then continued your relationship with him after he sent you the money?
Yes, we were still together, so I don't know why he's saying we weren't. We were together at that time. Why would I stay at his house? Why would he pick me up from the airport if we weren't together?
He says it was in June.
It was in June. That's why you was at my house. It was in June, man.
Oh, you must have your airline ticket.
I don't have it.
Who was this other person that you called for $50?
All right, when he came down, he knew about the guy already.
Don't tell me what he knew. I didn't ask you for a whole story. I said, who was this other person?
It was some other guy that I was messing with.
So now what you want me to believe is he sent you $300 to help you cover your rent. Then you went up to Philadelphia to see him. But at the time that he sent you the $300 for the rent, you were messing around with somebody else that he didn't know about. Is that right?
No, he knew about him. We were only like
friends.
No, we weren't friends. We were more than friends. But at that time, I knew I could depend on him.
You have to learn that you have to stand on your own 2 feet. You have to stop relying on people, and you have to stop using people. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Bridget Johnson claims ex-boyfriend Robert Jones owes for an assault and for funeral costs for their child. Robert claims the deceased child wasn't his.
Seat, please.
Miss Jones, according to the complaint that I've read, the defendant was your boyfriend. He became pregnant sometime in 2005.
Yes.
You broke up with the defendant and you were pregnant at the time.
Yes.
It is your claim that he assaulted you, and as a result of that assault, your baby was born prematurely and died. You want the defendant to pay for half of the baby's funeral expenses and damages for the assault.
Yes.
Mr. Jones says that you were the one who assaulted him, as a matter of fact, on the day that you broke up, that he never agreed to pay for the child's funeral expenses. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even positive that the child was his and told you that he had wanted a blood test before he assumed responsibility of the baby. That's your defense?
Yes, it is.
Okay. When did you become pregnant, Miss Johnson?
I found out I was pregnant July 22nd.
Of what year?
2005.
And were you living with Mr. Jones at the time?
Robert was staying with me along with his son because he was having arguments with his mother.
Did you move in with her in July or before that time?
I'll be staying over, you know.
You were staying over?
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you break up?
November 20th as a result of the assault.
Just listen to me. Had he slept at the house the night before?
Yes.
And the night before that?
Yes.
So tell me what happened on November the 20th.
November the 20th, I received a phone call from Rob at about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, then he hadn't been at your house 3 o'clock in the morning.
No, he was at the bars. He would frequently go to the bars and then come over to my house afterwards. And he had called me at 3 o'clock in the morning stating that he was going to come over. I ran downstairs and unlocked the door like I would usually do, and he didn't come in. So after a while, I looked out my window and saw that the car was parked and the headlights were on and the car was still running. So I laid there for a couple more minutes and then got dressed. And when I walked outside, I saw that Rob was passed out in the driver's seat. So I crawled into the passenger seat and woke him up and asked him, you know, what he was doing and why he hadn't come in the house, and he told me that he didn't know. So we were trying to get the headlights of the vehicle to turn off. They wouldn't turn off. So I suggested that we just unplug the battery. I was 5 months pregnant. I didn't want to be fighting with him. I would much rather just go to bed. He wanted me to, you know, be with him that night, and he wanted to be around me. So I stated, you know, let's just unplug the battery. We couldn't figure out the lights. So he started to proceed to back out of my driveway. I told him that he was drunk, that I didn't want to go anywhere with him. And he wasn't listening to me, so I leaned over and smacked him in the face. I went like this to the front of his face.
He then looked at me, told me to do that again, and I looked at him and said, "What did you mean?" And the next thing I knew, he punched me in my face.
So first you punched him and then he punched you?
Yeah, I didn't punch him.
No, just a second. So first you punched him.
Yes.
And then he punched you.
Yes.
Okay, now I got it.
But the only reason I hit him is because he wasn't listening to me and he wouldn't stop the vehicle.
I got you.
So then my
He
nose...
wasn't listening to you.
Yes.
Why don't you just take the keys out of the ignition?
I didn't think of that.
You shouldn't have gotten in the car in the first place.
I shouldn't have told him to come over that evening.
That's also correct.
Knowing that he was drunk.
That is also correct.
Yes,
Okay,
I agree.
keep going.
I realized that my nose was bleeding very, very badly. So I opened the car door and I half jumped out of the car, and he kind of gave me a little push along with it because he was laughing at the time. And I ran in the house and proceeded to call my mother first. And
so you weren't too far from where the house was?
No, I live on the second house at the corner of the block, and we were at the corner of the block.
Keep going.
I called my brother and he took me to the emergency room.
And what did they do for you there?
I first saw a police officer, and they went to arrest Rob.
That doesn't answer my question. What did they do for you in the emergency room?
At the emergency room, they took x-rays of my face, and I was having a sharp pain that was shooting from my back to my stomach. So then I was told that I had to go up to the maternity floor for monitoring on the baby.
And that was in November?
Yes.
And when was the baby born?
The baby was born in February.
February what?
7th.
How much did she weigh?
She weighed 2 pounds, 2 ounces.
And when did she pass away?
The 11th.
Between November 20th and February 7th, did you see the defendant?
I saw him at the court dates.
Other than that?
No, because there was a court order for him to not be within 1,000 feet of me.
Now, when did you have this conversation with him with regard to paying for the baby's funeral expenses?
Okay, the first conversation I had with Robert was when he called me in late June after Father's Day. And I said, well, I kind of need money, we should be paying for her gravestone, and I have funeral expenses that I couldn't get a grant from the state from everything. And he told me that he would give me $200 in August, and that him and his mother could save that together. I then called him on August 24th, and he told me he didn't have the money. So I said that I would pay the rest of it and that he could just pay me back. And he proceeded to say that that was fine. The next time I spoke to Robert was on September 17th when he called me and asked me if I wanted to go fishing with him with him. So I said, yeah, that I would go fishing because I wanted to speak to him about, the money.
Don't tell me why. You agreed to go fishing with him?
Yes. I knew
Is this
that.
the first time you had seen him other than the courthouse? Listen
No.
to me.
No.
Other than the court proceeding, is this the first time you saw him since November?
Other than court and then our daughter's birth, no.
Well, you didn't tell me about the daughter's birth.
My sister called him the morning that I was supposed to have a cesarean section. I was diagnosed with preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure, and then it becomes toxic and it affects the baby's heart rate. And the first time I had high blood pressure was December 20th, and it proceeded to get worse throughout the pregnancy due to stress-related causes.
Don't tell me what it was due to, madam, unless you're a physician. Are you a physician?
No.
Good. Go ahead.
My sister called him the morning that I was supposed to have the cesarean section. He showed up shortly after our daughter was born, and I asked him if it would be okay with him to go up with her to the hospital up in the cities because we live in Mankato, and she was being airlifted to Minneapolis. He said that he would go and be with her because they didn't expect her to live past the night. The next day, I was released from the hospital, and the following morning, Robert came down from the cities and took us up to the cities where the hospital was because we weren't aware of where it was.
What do you mean he took you? How did he take you?
We followed him.
What do you mean you followed him?
My mother and sister and I followed him in a different vehicle. Him and his mother drove in their own vehicle. So when we got to the cities, he went to a basketball tournament and left
us with my daughter so I could spend time with her. And then later on that evening, he came back to the hospital when I was at the hotel the following day.
I'm asking you when you spent time with him.
I didn't spend...
You didn't see him at the hospital?
No, he left as soon as he got us there. We got up to the room.
You didn't see him in the hospital is my question.
No, yes, I seen him at the
Okay.
hospital.
How many times did you see him in the hospital?
Just that first day.
So the baby died in February.
Yes.
Between February and September 17th when he called to go fishing, did you see him?
On occasion, out and about, you know, at like local stores, yes.
Other than seeing him at local stores, did you have a cup of coffee with him? Did you have a sandwich with him? Did you go out to a movie with him?
No.
Is that true, sir?
It's true.
So what prompted you to call her up to go fishing on September 17th?
Actually, she called me, and I just had mentioned we were going fishing, and if she, if she wanted to come, it was a beautiful day out. So she said, sure. So went fishing, took her home, that was it.
Go ahead. So continue with your story, madam. Here we are.
We went fishing.
We are now September 17th fishing, and he hasn't given you any money.
And when we went fishing, Robert and I took his mother to Cub Foods so that she could get milk for the house before he dropped me off at my apartment, which is about 3 blocks away from Cub Foods, which is a local grocery store.
Just keep going,
Okay.
please. I don't need a map of the town.
Okay.
Keep moving.
So after we dropped his mother off at Cub Foods, it was him and I in the vehicle, and I brought up the money, and he told me that he had bills himself that he needed, and I proceeded to leave the vehicle. And then at the powwow, I saw him and brought up the money again, and that's actually
So you
why
weren't afraid of him?
No. Not when he's not drinking.
No, you weren't afraid of him.
No, I'm not scared of him unless...
Why in the world, some 2 years later, are you suing him now for assault?
I just think that he owes me the money. I was emotionally distraught from the loss of my daughter.
I want to know why you didn't sue him before you went fishing with him.
I didn't want to go through the court proceedings.
Well,
and
what
everything.
prompted you now to go through a court proceeding to sue him for a punch that happened 2 years ago?
The fact that he won't pay for our daughter's funeral expenses.
Did he ever tell you that he wasn't sure that the baby was his?
No, he never told me that. And if he didn't think that the baby was his, why would he go up to the cities and sit with her?
I don't know. I'm going to find out. Tell me what happened on November 20th, Mr. Jones.
Okay, I had broken up with her earlier that day because she was real emotional, and she was kind of abusive towards me. She would hit me in my chest or whatever. She did it like she knew because I wouldn't hit her, and she knew that I'm not a violent person. I never hit a female ever in my life, and I broke up with her earlier that day.
Well, tell me about breaking up with her earlier that day.
I was actually going to play ball with my friends, which I always did, and she kind of got emotional and started, kind of crying.
No,
she cried a lot.
Kind of if you remembered what she said, if you remember as closely to what happened, please.
Well, we weren't getting along before this either, so on that day, I told her that it was over.
Is that right, madam?
No.
Before he went out to the bar that night, because clearly you had to unlock the door because you would lock the door, so clearly he wasn't living with you at that moment. Did he discuss with you earlier in the day on November 20th that he was not happy with the relationship?
No, he had never once tried to or attempted to tell me that he was not happy in our relationship.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, and so I called her and told her that I was going to come get my things.
What time?
This was at about 2:30.
In the morning?
In the morning.
You crazy? Why would you call at 2:30 in the morning to say you were getting your things?
The bar was right by her place.
So you had been in the bar, Mr. Jones? Yeah.
And I wasn't all like how she made it out to be.
I don't care whether you were all that. This is not an appropriate thing to do.
Yep,
to go 2:30 in the morning, to go while you're slightly inebriated, to get behind the wheel of a car and go anywhere to settle anything.
Yep.
You're supposed to wait until the morning.
Okay, so I went and grabbed tried to grab my things. I told her that I just came to get my things and that it was over, and she kind of got mad because she didn't want to never break it off anyways. And prior to this, she had injured herself twice at work to get my attention. She would, I'm at the emergency room, come down. And she, according to her, was in a car accident that rolled or whatever. This is all her stories, and I never had proof of anything, so.
How many times did you go to the emergency room with her prior to November 20th?
Just the day this kid was born. But after she had gotten pregnant, she told me that just weeks after I found out, she said that we got into an argument. She said she's early enough in her pregnancy where she can say somebody else is the father. And I said, well, how do I know that's not what you're doing to me? And I tried going to her first doctor's appointment, and she left me sitting out in the lobby.
Okay, got it. Did you ever tell her that you and your mother could save up $200 until August?
Yes, I did.
And that you would give her $200?
Yeah, I said that basically so she would just, you know,
I don't care why you said it.
Yeah.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
Now, let's get back to November 20th. You said you were coming to pick up your things 2:30 in the morning.
Yep.
2:30 in the morning you got there, and?
She opened the door, and she didn't want me in. And I wasn't going to barge in because that's not how I am.
Fine, so?
So she basically hit me in my eye because I told her I wanted my things, and it was over. And she hit me in my eye, closed the door, looked out the window, and I said, that's fine. That's the last time you'll ever hit me. And I walked all, her sister actually dropped him off at my work.
Is what you're telling me that she never got into your car?
She never did.
All right, I'd like to see the police report, please.
Yes, and I have pictures.
I'd like to see the police report, please.
If I could say something, too, there was never even a police weren't even there.
Sir, you pled guilty to 5th-degree assault, according to the plaintiff.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so? All right, so you told the police that he doesn't live with you. That's what you told the police.
I told the police that he was staying at his mother's house.
You told the police that you do not live together and that he stays on and off, but he lives with his mother. Who are you?
Robert Armando's mother.
Stand up, please. Your last name is?
Jones.
Miss Jones, you told the police when they came to your house on November the 20th to go downstairs and get your son. Is that right?
Right.
You told him to go downstairs and get your son because he came home drunk.
Right.
And he was passed out on the couch.
Right.
Right. And you, sir, when you were questioned by the police, you were so drunk that you denied even being over at your girlfriend's house.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know, Mr. Jones, there is absolutely no indication here, nor, I assume, do you have any medical testimony that would indicate a correlation between your baby's death 2 months after you got this black eye, because that's what it was, and the baby's illness.
No.
No. So what you're suing him for is for the simple assault of giving you a black eye and the $200 he promised you for the baby's headstone. He's not responsible with regard to any of the other baby's expenses because there is no indication that this is in fact his child. In order to do that, you either have to be married, which you are not, or you have to have a blood test, which would establish that he's the father. Then he would be responsible for half of any unrecovered expenses for the child. Since you don't have that, the only thing that you have to sue him on is his agreement that he would pay you $200 towards the child's headstone, which was really gratuitous, but he promised he would. You relied on that. That you have to pay, sir. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Since there is no correlation between the injury to your eye and what subsequently happened to the baby, I have to examine the circumstances surrounding what happened on that day. There's no question in my mind that he was drunk, that he has no recollection of what happened that day, that he's making it up as he's going along, because he even denied to the police that he was there that day. Even your mother was disgusted with you, sir. Is that a fair statement, Miss Jones?
Right.
Okay. Now, you pled guilty to assaulting her, sir.
Yes, I did.
And you received probation?
Nope, I just got a $500 fine.
No, he was placed on probation for 1 year.
Sir, you better start remembering things that happened to you.
I never was. I was supposed to get a probation officer. I never did.
I don't care whether you were supposed to, whether they never followed through and gave you a probation officer. Maybe you forgot. But if you were supposed to get a probation officer, it wasn't because they were giving you a probation officer for your birthday. They were giving you a probation officer because you were on
probation.
You have to learn, Mr. Jones, that there are consequences. However, Ms. Johnson, you don't get any awards for being the brightest bulb in the pack. When you're 5 months pregnant and your boyfriend calls 3 o'clock in the morning and says, I'm at a bar and I'm coming over, you lock your door and you keep it closed. You don't go outside to try to figure out how to get the lights off and disconnect his battery.
Yeah.
And you don't punch him in the face. But he started the problem by coming over there in the first place, which was really very stupid. And that, Mr. Jones, is going to cost you $500. So I'm issuing a judgment in the amount of $700, $200 for the baby's headstone and $500 for this 2-year-old assault. Thank you very much. That's all.
Damian Cecere says he helped friend Amy Brown with a loan to get started in a vitamin selling business. Damian claims Amy has yet to pay him back.
Pronounce your last name for me.
Cecere.
Mr. Cecere, I want you to understand that I have some familiarity with the kind of business that you're in. Do you want to explain it to Byrd, or would you like me to do it?
The nature of the business?
Yes.
Essentially, I have my friend Ronald here who has been in the business for 12 years, and he...
Ronald doesn't have to explain it.
Okay.
I'm going to, in very simplistic terms, explain it to Byrd. You tell me if I'm wrong.
All right.
Simple. You have this vitamin bottle, because that's what they sell, vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
And Ronald, that's this guy over here, he's been in the business 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
He sometimes sells these vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
But what he does mostly is get other people under him who sell vitamins.
Mm-hmm.
And depending upon at what level they buy in, they could buy in with $500 or $1,000 or $2,000, they get product. He brings him in. Mr. Sincere over here buys $5,000 worth of product.
Mm-hmm.
He gets a piece of that.
Sure.
So it's like slavery, you know. What you do is he brings in, what's your first name?
Damien.
He brings in a lot of Damiens. Damien 1, Damien 2, Damien 3, Damien 4. And whatever Damien orders from the business, not sells, but orders from the business, Ronald gets a piece of.
Multi-level marketing.
Correct. Now, so then it inures to Damien 1 through 5. They say, listen, we want to be Ronald too.
Of course.
So we're going to see if we can get, what's your name? Amy. A whole bunch of Amy's under us to buy as much product as he can, because they get a piece of whatever Amy buys.
Of course. And
And
him
they
too.
also, and so does Ronald.
That's right.
Because Ronald gets a smaller piece of Amy, but he still gets a piece of Amy. And then, what's your name?
Damien.
What's your name?
Cody.
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 I want to get a whole bunch of Codys because that's the way I'm going to make my money. And he's going to get a little piece of Cody, and he's going to get a smaller piece of Cody, but everybody's going to get a piece of Cody. That's the way the game works.
Oh, yeah.
Got it?
That's right.
Pretty much. Now, you also reach certain levels in this business, because if you're a master, or if you're a guru, or if you're a titan, or if you're an Ogatunji, whatever it is, what happens is they give you perks.
Oh, yeah.
Do you get perks in your business, like a car?
If you get high enough, you do. Yeah, I'm not there yet.
You think this is a scheme that I haven't been through a couple of times in my life?
No, I didn't say that.
All right, I got it. So if you get up really high, if you get to be a Grandmaster Ungatunji, they give you a BMW.
Of course.
Or they give you a Mercedes. So there are advantages for Ronald to get a whole bunch of Damiens, and for Damiens to get a whole bunch of Amy's, and for Amy's to get a whole bunch of Codys, because in addition to getting the money, you also get the perks. That's the drill. Now, Damien over here got Amy involved in the business, and she bought inventory. How much worth, sir?
It was worth $5,000.
What are you asking him for? The questions are going to get harder.
Oh my! I think it was worth about $5,000, and he actually put up $3,300.
Okay, but you put up the money for her
Yes, I did.
on your credit card
Yes, I did.
because you were hoping that she was going to do well in the business, and she wasn't such a good salesperson. And she couldn't find a Cody. If she killed herself, she couldn't find a Cody. So you ended up getting stiffed for your money.
Correct.
And she sent back some of her product,
Right, some of it.
but you want, because you're stuck with the bill now, because you're not a Grandmaster Ogatunji yet.
Right.
There isn't any such thing as a
There may be, I'm
Grandmaster
not that high
Ogatunji,
up,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I sort of made that up because it sounded funny. So you want her to pay you the money. Miss Brown says you gave her all kinds of sales pitch. You told her she was going to make a fortune, that there were Codys floating around under every rock, that she was going to be able to sell these vitamins, that they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. And she couldn't do it because she was no salesperson. And since you didn't help her, she sent back the product that she hadn't used. If you have the bill, that's your problem. Okay, we have certain things that we understand. We understand that he bought in for $3,300 and put it on his credit card. That is an agreed state of fact. It is also agreed that you agreed to pay him back that money for starting you in this business. This was going to be your business. You were going to be a grand female ugatunja. Didn't work out. Wasn't your thing. So what did you do?
I asked for his help several times.
How did you do that?
Either phone conversations or via email.
And what did he say to you?
Usually it was, yeah, we need to get together and talk about this, which never happened. And after so many attempts, I just sent all the product back.
And what did he say?
He was fine with it as far as I knew. I told him I was going to do it, and he said he understood.
So, when did he decide to sue you?
I just was served about 2 weeks ago.
When was this that you sent back the product?
I believe it was May or June of 2006.
So why did you wait to sue her, sir? Is not an answer.
Okay. I wanted to work with Amy to give her an opportunity to pay back the remaining balance.
Well, had you asked her for it?
Of course.
How many times did you ask her for the balance?
Numerous. Both on the phone, and then when she started not returning my phone calls, our relationship was degraded. And I have in emails that she said she would indeed pay back the remaining balance.
Can I see it, please?
May I say something else, Your Honor?
Yes.
I absolutely did make every attempt to not only talk to Amy on the phone, but to get together with her, to involve her in opportunity meetings. Ronald also met her in Anaheim for a meeting. I feel like we put forth a very fair and aggressive effort to assist her with this.
It is clear to me that over the course of several months, you agreed to pay him.
And I agreed to make payments.
So why didn't you?
Because at the time I had lost my job, I was laid off, and I just bought my condo. And
you just bought your condo?
I just bought a condo, and then I was laid off, and then I was trying to get caught up with my other bills, which were a priority.
Well, then you acknowledge this debt to him.
A portion of it.
Well, which portion of it, madam?
I agreed to, okay, he had agreed to help me with.
Listen, we're beyond that. We had agreed to help you. Now I have emails where you clearly acknowledge the debt, which belies what you told me, that he breached his contract to help you, which is why you don't have to pay him. So now we know that you agreed to pay him. So I'm asking you why. Is it because you bought a condo?
No, the condo was prior to even meeting him.
Well, so what does that have to do with paying him back?
Well, no, I had been laid off, and that's when I met him, and he convinced me to do this so that I could make money. Then
it didn't work out, and you returned the product, and you still said, I'm going to pay you. So what stopped you?
Well, I didn't agree with the amounts that he was saying I owed him.
Well, how much do you say you owe him? That's where I started 5 minutes ago.
Okay, I believe I owe him maybe $1,000 just based on the portions of it that I was able to sell.
Well, how much did you sell?
Maybe a couple $100 worth to just...
Where are your records?
There's no record. I mean, you sell the container to people for cash.
What do you mean, you sell it for cash and then you don't report it to anybody? Not even the government? How do you expect to pay your taxes?
I don't know. This is something he was supposed to help me with.
He's not supposed to help you with that. This is your business.
Well, this is what he promised to help me with. I have the emails where he stated he promised to help me as well.
How much product? $3,300. How much product did she send back?
She returned $699.30, which was credited to my credit card. And she gave me a personal check for $300.
And you cashed it?
Of course.
Good.
Also, Your Honor, originally I gave Amy a can, 2 cans of product, which I said you can pay me back for. Just give me the same cans once you get your order, and she never did. So I had added that in as well.
You're going to have to live with that, sir. Damien.
Okay.
So she returned $700 worth of product, bringing it down to $2,600, and she gave you $300, leaving a grand total of $2,300.
And they actually prorated that, that they don't refund you the full amount. So they only give you, I think, 80 to 90% back.
And
that's what was credited to his credit card.
Well, that's all right. He has to be made whole. You're a big girl. How old are you?
36.
What?
36.
36. 36 years old. You make a decision. It doesn't work out. You have to take care of the consequences. These are slick guys. This is the way they make a living. They find people who are young, looking to start a new life, start a new business, not worked out in other fields, and they say, listen, you can make a lot of money. And some people make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Ronald makes a good living, right? Damien, I don't know, do you make a good living?
I'm working on it.
Well, how much did you earn last year?
With Just For You Live?
Yes.
I'd have to look at my tax return.
Let's try to give me a round ballpark figure, Damien.
I'm going to say probably around $8,000.
8.
Mm-hmm.
You make a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
You've been there 12 years.
Yeah.
How long have you been in, Damien?
About 3 years.
Oh, when you're there 12 years, you're going to have that Mercedes you want.
I hope so.
What kind of car do you drive, Ronald?
I drove a BMW.
Now.
Can I say something?
Sure.
The business has a 1-year money-back guarantee. So at any point, she could have returned the product and got 90% of her money back. The business isn't designed for people to fail. If they don't want to do it, if they get a new job, that's okay. So if there was ever a discrepancy, she could have returned all the product and Damien would have got reimbursed. So.
But she didn't.
Right.
She's got to pay him.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,300. Thank you. That's all.
Tanya Blishak is suing her former co-worker, Julianne Rouse, for startup money to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Ms. Blishak, according to what I've read in your complaint, you and the defendant worked together in a hair salon period of time, and in addition to your regular work, you were making some money on the side selling Mary Kay Cosmetics. You tried to get Ms. Rouse to become a representative for Mary Kay and claimed that you sold her a quantity of product. You put it on your credit card because she asked you to, with the understanding that she would pay the credit card bill. She paid some, but not all, and you want the balance. Ms. Rouse says that you sort of pressured her into becoming a representative. She paid you back a total so far of $1,400 for the product that was purchased, according to her, without her consent. She stopped selling the product. She still has 6 boxes of it at home that you're welcome to have because she says she's paid enough.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I sold it for about a month.
That's a fib that you just told me, because you told me a moment ago that after a month, so that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tanya Blishak says former co-worker Julianne Rouse owes for a loan to buy Mary Kay Cosmetics. Julianne says the makeup was forced on her.
When did you start to sell Mary Kay Cosmetics?
September of 2001.
And what percentage do you get of what, for instance, Miss Rouse would purchase from Mary Kay?
At the time, I did get 13% on her order, but I would like to state...
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I just want to say that I explained to her completely and full detail that she does not have to order any inventory whatsoever. It is for her benefit to have inventory if she wants it, so that she can give it to her customers when they buy it from her. That's completely her option. She doesn't have to do it, and she chose to do one of the big ones.
When did she purchase this product?
In April of 2004.
And how much did she purchase?
She purchased a $2,400 order.
Now, tell me under what circumstances you financed her order of $2,400.
It was with my credit card.
Why?
She had been a customer as well before, and I had no problems with her financially. She paid her orders. There was no problems. And she wanted to get started with a business. She said she didn't have a credit card and you can't pay cash. And she wanted to do it, and I told her that I would help her out. She was going to pay me back the next month, and we were going to be done with this.
From where was she supposed to get $2,400?
I don't know.
Who do you live with?
My husband.
Have any children?
Yes.
How many?
1.
How old?
7 months.
And you were working full-time?
No, ma'am.
Part-time?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
I wasn't working for a while. I was going to school, and then I went back to work part-time at the salon. And at that time, my fiance at the time were living with roommates. We didn't have our own place.
So when you purchased this stuff, Miss Rouse, it was your intention to make this a part-time job?
Well, I was working part-time at the salon, and then I left there right about the same time this all happened to work full-time at a travel agency.
So was it your intention to work part-time selling Mary Kay Cosmetics?
At that time, yes.
Who selected the product that was purchased?
Miss Blishak did.
Without your input?
I didn't input. She did it online, and she ordered the things that she thought I needed at the time. And then about 5 weeks later, I needed different products. I had to place another order on my own to get the products that I needed for my clients.
So you were, in fact, working?
For a little bit, yes.
So why didn't you finish paying her for the product?
And in the beginning, I did not want to sell the Mary Kay. She kept asking me to join. I thought if I joined it, it would be over and done with after the $115. So then after this, I decided that I would try it out.
Well, that's what she's talking about.
And she told me when she did this that I would be able to pay her back in a month because you would make so much money selling these products within the first month, as she did. At the time, I couldn't do that. I was working full-time.
Well, that happened later. Miss Rouse.
Within the same week,
Miss
it happened,
Rouse,
ma'am.
listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
There's something about buyer's remorse, which means that at the time you thought it was a good idea and all of a sudden it didn't look so good after it was done, as opposed to someone who fraudulently sells you something. I'm not getting the sense that Miss Blishank sold you anything fraudulently, especially since you ordered more product a month later. And you paid her $1,400. She paid you $1,400? When did you stop paying her?
August was the last payment I gave her.
And you were paying her prior to that time because you were selling product?
I sold it for about a month.
Or more. Because that's a fib that you just told me, Miss Rouse. Because you told me a moment ago that after a month you ordered more product to sell to your customer. So that means that you were at least selling the product for 2 months.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sounds to me, Miss Rouse, as a case of you didn't plan on getting pregnant, you planned on working full-time, you planned on selling this part-time. It all didn't work out because you left a part-time job, went to a full-time job, then you got pregnant, then you stopped working. Are you working now?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. You better start selling some Mary Kay cosmetics because you owe her some money. How much does she owe you with interest on your credit card?
$1848.02.
Can I see that, please? Why does she owe you $1848? What kind of interest they charge you on your credit card?
It was 12.9.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, good. You have 6 boxes of product left?
Yes, ma'am. I have a list of everything I have.
Good. You better start selling it, Miss Rouse. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,848. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
William Lyle claims his tenant, Christopher Rodriguez, assaulted him during an argument. Christopher is countersuing for harassment.
Mr. Lyle, it is your complaint that the defendant, who's a tenant of yours, assaulted you. You want your medical bills paid. You want damages for pain and suffering. Mr. Rodriguez says that you precipitated this altercation and that you tried to have him evicted and you had no basis for that. What kind of unit do you rent to Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Lyle?
Your Honor, one-bedroom apartment.
How many units are in the building?
There is 4 units in this building.
When did you lease him the apartment?
I leased the apartment to Mr. Rodriguez on March 12th of this year.
And what's the term of the lease?
It's a 1-year lease, Your Honor.
Could you tell me the date of this altercation?
The altercation was on March 26th.
Tell me what happened.
On March 26th, I responded to Mr. Rodriguez's apartment where there had been a plumbing problem.
Is that correct so far? You had a plumbing problem on March 26th?
Yes, that I...
The answer is either yes or no. You had
yes.
a plumbing problem.
Yes, I did.
And you reported the plumbing problem?
To the apartment manager.
And did the apartment manager see to it that a plumber arrived at your premises? Were you present when the plumber arrived?
Yes, and those are the only 2 people that
Just
were there.
answer my question.
Okay.
You were present when the property manager arrived with the plumber?
Yes.
Okay, now continue, Mr. Lyle.
I responded...
On the 26th.
To the apartment.
Okay.
Responding to the apartment, I observed, yes, there was a plumbing problem. And while I was standing there, I observed over in the front room area on a coffee table what appeared to me to be a bag of narcotics.
What kind of narcotics?
I believed it was marijuana.
Okay, so you saw a bag of marijuana on a table.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I walked over, seized the bag.
Why?
Because it was marijuana, and I didn't allow marijuana in my apartment complex.
You can't do that, Mr. Lyle. You understand that you can't do that. You have no right to take any property out of his apartment. You may have the right to call the police and say, I see something in plain view, but you have no right to take any property out of his apartment. Similarly, if you walked into his apartment and you saw a gun or a rifle, you couldn't take that because he may have had a license for the gun. You have no right to take property. You can report it to the police, but you cannot resort to self-help.
Okay.
Okay, so you took the bag of marijuana, the suspected marijuana, which turned out to be marijuana, correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you do with it?
I picked it up and was holding it in my left hand and was standing in a doorway. Just kind of had the bag of narcotics or marijuana in my left hand and had my right hand just bracing myself very leisurely, casually in the doorway like this. And shortly thereafter, Mr. Rodriguez and a friend of his came in the apartment. He started screaming and yelling at me that I was not allowed to be in his apartment. What are you doing here? At that time, I said to him, Christopher, you know, prior to you moving in, we had a conversation. where I told you I didn't rent to anybody that smoked marijuana, had anything to do with drugs. You advised me at that time you had nothing to do with narcotics. You didn't smoke marijuana. And I said, listen, you know, I've had numerous complaints from my other tenants that you smoking dope, the smell of marijuana emitted throughout the building. You were causing nothing but problems in the building. At that time, he kept inching closer and closer to me, and I was very surprised. He attacked me.
How did he attack you?
He just, what's the word I can use? Bull rushed me, charged me. He drove me back about 10 feet into a refrigerator. And as he drove me back, he kind of turned me to the left a little, or to the right a little bit. And I either hit the refrigerator handle or the side of the refrigerator door. And I bounced off the refrigerator door, came back at him, landed on top of him, and I started yelling for my plumber, Kim, and my property manager, who was also in the building at that time, to come on out and help me. And he was able to grab the marijuana back from me, and I yelled at Kim and my property manager to get the marijuana away from them. And I said, look, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I'm going to file a police report. So I took the bag of marijuana, left the location, went down and got in my car, backed it out of the parking spot.
Where's the marijuana at this time?
At that time, it's sitting on my passenger seat.
All right, so you were stealing his property. That time you were stealing his property.
I guess I was stealing his property, Your Honor.
You were, Mr. Lyle, because I read Mr. Rodriguez's answer, and unless you are prepared to contradict that, Mr. Rodriguez says that he has a prescription for medical marijuana. That's what he says, and I assume that he's prepared to prove that to me today.
Yes.
So if he has a prescription for medical marijuana, even if he didn't have a prescription, you couldn't take it. But if he did have it lawfully, you were stealing property that he had in his lawful possession. And not only that, but you got your plumber to help you.
I guess, Your Honor, we're just a couple of bad citizens.
No, you're not a bad citizen, Mr. Lyle. You're here in a court of law. Now, Mr. Rodriguez retrieved his bag of marijuana from your car, because I read your complaint and I read his answer. So far, is that correct?
It's correct.
Did you? That's all I'm asking.
It wasn't a bag.
Whatever it was.
And plus, it wasn't on my
Just
coffee.
a second.
Okay.
I didn't get to you yet.
Okay, no problem.
Just answer my questions.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Lyle, we're here in a court of law, and you're asking me to make a judgment on whether or not Mr. Rodriguez had the right to prevent you from leaving his home with his property and to exert any force to do that. That's what you're asking me to decide.
At that time, I had not told him that I was going to leave the apartment with his property.
You had it in your hand, sir. And you, in fact, not only did leave with it, but you had managed to get it out of your hand, and you importuned two people to get it back, which suggests to me that you were intending to leave with it. So let's not play with each other, and I want you to understand something. I am very sympathetic from the perspective of a citizen, not a judge, but a citizen, that you have a 4-unit apartment complex, and I don't know whether you had complaints or not, but if Mr. Rodriguez has a prescription for medical marijuana and he smokes it in his apartment, and he may have other people that come over who have similar prescriptions that smoke in his apartment, that smell wafts all over a 4-unit apartment complex. And there might be people, I would be one of them, who would be incensed at that. I want you to understand that. So don't give me that I'm just a bad citizen.
I understand
according
that,
to you.
Your Honor.
This is a legal place. And if Mr. Rodriguez can establish to me that he had a prescription for this, and of course he's going to tell me why he has a prescription for it, right?
Yes.
Then he had the right to stop you from stealing his property. And if he pushed you into the refrigerator, that's what he did to get his property back. And you called 2 other people to get the marijuana back from him. All very bad judgment, Mr. Lyle, on your part. Because if you're a landlord, if you have a tenant who's violating any conditions of the lease, you take him to court to have him evicted, which I assume you did.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
And that was denied.
Yes, it was, Your Honor.
Well, that's unfortunate. So now, that's unfortunate for you, but that's what the law is.
Yes.
All right.
You know, Your Honor, someplace, somewhere down the road of justice, somebody's got to hold this guy responsible for something. I've got a 4-unit building that he and his posse are holding hostage.
Yeah. Mr. Lyle, hey, Mr. Rodriguez, look
Excuse
at me.
me, Your Honor, excuse me.
Look at me.
Yes.
You understand that I have a certain sympathetic ear towards what he's telling me.
Yes, I do.
I mean, I would like to be able to pick up the phone and call the other 3 tenants that are in the building and find out if any of them have complained to him because of the smell of your marijuana. It's not particularly relevant, but it bothers him that that kind of activity is going on in your home. He should have been more careful about who he rented to. Now, how long have you had a prescription for medical marijuana?
I've had it since 2 years ago, but my new one is 1/30/09. That's the date of this statement. Because
I'd like to see it, please.
I got an accident when I was a kid, and so I kind of have a little neck injury. So, because my head kind of went through the windshield when I was like out of high school.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Rodriguez?
I'm in sales. I'm a sales representative.
How old are you, Mr. Rodriguez?
38.
And when was this accident that you had?
There was 2, one in 91 and 92, where my head went through the windshield and I basically was like dead on arrival. So I've had like a...
Don't tell me what you have, Mr. Rodriguez.
Okay. Well, I have a neck injury.
I heard you had a neck injury twice.
Okay. And then I got prescribed to be on like anti-inflammatory medication, but I don't really like to pop pills, you know, because I'm an athlete, I'm a surfer. So I don't really like how it feels.
You're a surfer?
Yes.
Give this back to him. Mr. Lyle, I understand your frustration with him. I got it. This serious life-threatening condition that he has is, in my judgment, and I'm not a medical professional, but for somebody who surfs as a hobby.
Yeah.
It was moving around. It would seem to me you wouldn't do that if you had a serious neck condition that requires you to take prescribed cannabis.
Cannabis.
Cannabis. Yes. Whatever it is. Marijuana. Instead of taking an anti-inflammatory that might help you. So I want you to understand, Mr. Lyle, I have sympathy for him because I do believe that there are some people who have really serious medical conditions that can benefit during the course of serious treatment from the use of medical marijuana. Yeah. And then there are those people that abuse it. And there are those people that abuse it by prescribing it to people who abuse it. Yeah. And that's the problem. I'm speaking.
Okay.
Now, if your hobby is playing the piano or playing the violin, I might have a little more sympathy. But if your hobby of choice at age 38 with a serious neck injury is surfing, my sympathy level for you is about 0. You got where I'm coming from, Mr. Rodriguez.
I understand.
Mr. Lyle, unfortunately, I have to dismiss your case, just as the housing court judge dismissed your case, and probably with equal frustration, at least I hope, because you couldn't do what you did. And Mr. Rodriguez had a right to retrieve his property and use lawful means to do that. I mean, he couldn't take a knife out and stab you to get his marijuana back or take out a gun and shoot you. But he had a right to try to get his property back, which he eventually did. Now, Mr. Rodriguez has a counterclaim because he says you've been harassing him. He's been harassing you, Mr. Rodriguez, because he'd like you out of his complex.
Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez, if you were a nice person, you would go find a nice complex where you wouldn't be irritating other people and you wouldn't be irritating the landlord. But you don't have to do that, and he has to suffer with you until March.
He's not having to suffer whatsoever. I'm having to suffer.
Well, you don't have to suffer. There are 2 choices for you not to suffer. Either he sells his apartment building or you move.
Well, there's no...
Just a second. Okay. Those are the 2 choices.
I'm not moving because I've
That's right. So you're not moving. So stay there, and if you want to stay there and continue to do what you do, you'll live out the term of your lease, and then he'll get rid of you.
The case is that he lost in court, and he also lied in court, and he continues to lie
Just
in court.
a second. Listen to me.
Okay.
I don't care whether he rummaged through your closet or if he found the combination to your safe. Okay. It's not that I'm finding that because he saw this marijuana in plain sight, he was able to take it. Yeah. He wouldn't be able to take it if it was hanging from a chandelier in front of his nose. So whether he went in and looked through your closet or whether he saw it on a table, it's irrelevant. He had no right to take it.
Which I understand.
Hey, stop talking, sir.
Okay.
I'm telling you that if he tried to have you evicted because he believed that it was injurious to his property, that was his right. That's what a court is for. And if the judge in housing court wanted to impose some sort of punitive costs on him, I assume that the judge would have done that. I have no intention of doing that for you in this case. So take your sore neck
Well, I haven't even got to explain my side of the story.
Just a second. I told him he was wrong. I'm dismissing his case. Why do you have to explain your story?
You're already judging me before you...
Just a second. Okay. I'm dismissing his case against you. You want to say something else, Mr. Rodriguez?
No, I do not, but I...
Very good. That's all. Out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
David McLaughlin and Rachel Browning say former landlords Michael Moreland and Janae Cooper owe for the return of a deposit and for false charges made to police. The defendants are countersuing for rent.
Okay. According to the complaint, you rented a house from the defendants. You gave them a deposit in order to move in. You moved in. You said the house was in deplorable condition. You want your deposit back. You want hotel stay and punitive damages for filing false charges against you with Child Protective Services. The defendants say that you owe them for rent and something that you stole when you left, right?
Yes.
That's what the case is about. Okay. You have children together?
No.
You have children who lived in the house?
Yes.
How many?
2, my daughter Michaela, who's 5 now, and her son Austin, who's 6.
And how long have the two of you been together?
We've been together a year.
Okay. Where were you living before you rented the house from the defendants?
Back in January, I bought a house with my ex-wife, and she filed for divorce about 2 or 3 days after we actually signed for the house. So I had to move out by March 1st so I could get into a house with Rachel, because I knew Rachel from high school. So
I mean, are you a couple, or are you just sharing a house?
We're a couple. We actually got married January 4th of this year.
Okay, so you had to get out fast of your living situation. Did you answer an ad for the defendant's house?
No, we actually were driving around trying to find something. We knew I don't have great credit.
Listen, you drove around. Was there a for rent sign?
Yeah, there was a for rent sign.
And you called?
I called the number.
In what month?
Middle of March. We called about the first 2 weeks of March. And she told me that they had a house for rent, that they had to fix it up a little bit, and that we could look at it the next day. We met them the next day. I looked at it.
And?
It was pretty bad. They had like 3 or 4, maybe 2 or 3 couches in the living room with a bunch of tables, and it was just everywhere. There was stuff everywhere, every room. And he said he'd have it done by the 1st of April. And then he told us the deposit was $1,850, which is the first month's rent, which is $950 plus $900. And he'll have everything done by the 1st. And I told him that I have a 401k check coming in, my thing from work, and it was $1,300. And then I was going to borrow the money from my grandparents and my mom.
Listen, that's a little too much information for me. You saw the house. It was in deplorable condition. You said you wanted the house as of when?
As of April 1st.
Did you sign a lease?
We did sign a lease. And,
I'd like to see it.
This is the original copy of it.
Lease that provided that you were going to move in on April the 3rd for 6 months. Okay. Did you move in on April the 3rd?
No, he kept saying he had no electricity, he had no water in the house. So we turned on the electricity at the end of March so he could get the paint done in my name. And he had no water in the house. He owed $300 or $400 for the water. So he had to pay that off so he could get the water running. And then he never had anybody come up there to fix it.
Listen to me. When did you move in?
May 3rd.
You moved in a month late.
A month late. My parents came up from New York, and
I don't care if your parents came up from New York, sir. I have some specific questions. May 3rd you moved in, right?
Yes.
And you gave them the money when?
April 10th, because I gave him $900 before April 3rd, and then we gave him the rest of the money when my parents came up. And I got pictures of the house, the way it looked before he actually fixed it.
I don't care what it looked like before he fixed it.
Okay.
That's irrelevant to me. And when did you move out of the house?
The first week of September, because he had our deposit and I was going through divorce and I had a lot of bills I had to pay.
I don't care. So you had to give him first and last.
I got him deposit and first month's rent.
So the deposit was for any damage that might be done and first month's rent.
Yes.
So you owed him rent in June.
Yes.
Did you pay him?
No.
Why not?
He never came to fix our house. My daughter's room had no carpet.
Just a second. Was there carpet before you moved in?
No, not my daughter's room.
Is there anything in the lease that provides that he has to provide for carpet?
It has to be livable.
No. Not everybody likes carpet, sir. Is there anything in this lease that provides that he has to provide carpet?
I'm pretty sure it does say something. And
Show me. I don't want to have to read the whole thing. Take a look. Show me where it says that your daughter's room has to be carpeted.
It says something about the conditions of the premises, including all grounds and buildings and improvements, unless they...
Listen to me. The word carpet.
I don't see carpet in here.
So the lease does not provide for carpet?
No.
Okay, so you didn't pay him for June. Your daughter's room had no carpet.
And her son's room had really old carpet. He said he was going to change in there. It was like shag carpet, and the whole house was completely destroyed.
Listen to me. You moved into it.
Yes.
If it wasn't ready, don't move in. So you moved in and you didn't pay June's rent.
Yes.
Did you pay July's rent?
No. We had no...
Okay. Don't go there, sir.
Sorry.
I don't want to hear, you're fetching and complaining.
Mm-hmm.
You moved your family in, and as soon as you moved in, you stopped paying rent. That's what happened. I mean, that's the objective data.
Yeah.
You moved in and you stopped paying rent. No June, no July, no August.
Yes.
And what were you doing with the rent money?
I was putting it toward my bills that I had for my divorce. I had a car that was 2 months behind and like that. And we had a problem with her insurance and stuff at work, but the house was not livable. My dad...
Listen to me, if the house isn't livable, you move out. If it's not livable, you don't move in. And if it's not livable, you move out. You don't scam the landlord by moving in and saying, now I'm here. Now you can't get me out.
Wait, I had nowhere to live.
That's not his problem. Is he related to you by blood?
No.
Who cares if you have nowhere to live? Go live with a relative. Go live with your mother. Go live with your father. Go live with your sister. Go live with your brother. But don't move into a stranger's house and say, no, I'm not going to pay rent because I got bills for my divorce.
I mean, we gave him $1,800 for the month. He never came and fixed it.
Just a second.
Okay.
I gave you credit for May's rent. Because he wouldn't have let you move in unless you gave him the 2 months.
Yeah.
Right? So you gave him the 2 months and then you stopped paying him. Outrageous. I mean, you're a squatter. And it's an old scam. You got yourself in, you move yourself in, you say, listen, it's going to take the courts 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get me out. By that time, they're just going to be so happy to get rid of me that they'll just say, go, forget it. And then you move on to some other unsuspected. Outrageous. You get me?
I get you.
Good. If you don't like an apartment, if you don't like a house, you don't move in. Does that sound right to you? You're the police officer, is that right?
Sounds right, Judge.
Right? Nobody's twisting your arm. You don't like the shag carpet? Don't move in. Doesn't mean that much to you. You move in. You want carpet in your daughter's room? Go to Home Depot. Now, the second part of your complaint is that they called Child Protective Services on you.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Your Honor, we never called Child Protective Services.
Just a second.
They called the police.
Can I ask quite the question, please? Did they call Child Protective Services?
The police did. Once the police came out.
So they called the police?
Yes.
Mr. Moreland?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you call the police?
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me why. What month did you call the police?
August or June, somewhere around there.
Well, August and June are 2 different months. Officer,
I'm not sure, Your Honor.
Officer, could you stand up, please?
Yes, Judge.
Could you move over there? I know you're not a plaintiff's witness.
Certainly.
But you responded to the location where Mr. McLaughlin and Miss Browning were living.
Yes, I did.
You remember when that was, sir?
It was on June 25th.
And you responded because you got a call about what, sir?
We had a complaint on some photographs containing images of the adults with their children in pornographic poses.
And when you responded to the location, did you find anything?
No, ma'am, we did not. Not anything that related to the complaint.
Okay. Can you describe what you saw when you got to the premises?
When I arrived at the premises, I went inside the residence. The residence was in a messy state. There were boxes every place. It appeared as if somebody was moving out. Some trash, not anything that would be deplorable to live in, but it just appeared to be unorganized and a lot of boxes and packing going on.
But you found nothing untoward?
No.
Were you responsible for calling Child Protective Services?
No, ma'am.
Do you know who did?
More than likely, any reports that we take involving children in a case such as this gets forwarded to CPS automatically.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell me, sir?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. You can have a seat. Okay. What made either one of you believe that there were photographs in there involving children?
There was, Your Honor. I haven't heard from McLaughlin for several months, and he didn't pay me for about 5 months, and he changed the locks on the premises, which on the lease it states here that if you don't pay rent or if you change the locks, I have the right to enter the premises.
Okay.
So I enter the home, and I see in the living room there's mattresses laying on the floor, 5 to 7 digital cameras laying around.
Did you,
pictures.
Sir, officer, one more thing. When you went into the premises, did you see any mattresses on the floor?
Ma'am, I don't recall if there are any mattresses on the floor. I do remember the complaint of the video cameras. Mr. Moreland believed that there is some type of filming possibly going on involving the children in their rooms. When I responded, I checked on that complaint. I looked at the camera. Nothing that
What kind of
appeared to be-
cameras? So still cameras, movie cameras?
There are several different kinds. Still cameras, some video recorders, camcorders, but nothing.
How many would you say?
Approximately 5 to 7, but they were in broken states. They didn't work. They were not set up on stands. I didn't see any evidence of any type of recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you take pictures of what you saw?
Yes, Your Honor, right next to the child's bed.
Cover all the pictures.
There was an open box of two open boxes, and he also had plenty of time before the police entered the property to dispose of what I seen.
Don't tell me that's supposition.
It's not carpet. If I like to add some.
Shh. These were taken the day that you called the police? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. Officer, would you step up, please?
Yes, ma'am.
This be a fair and accurate representation of the condition of the house when you saw it?
Yes, that does appear to be taken in June.
Thank you. Mr. Moreland was perfectly right to pick up the phone and call the police and have them come to at least look into what was going on in that house. You moved in, according to you, on May the 3rd. This house looks like a disaster area, an absolute disaster area. And I'm not even addressing the pornographic material that's there, which, by the way, you acknowledge that you had in the house, but you say it was, in fact, put away so that the children couldn't reach it. Well, somebody reached it. It may have even been Mr. Moreland, but somebody reached it. I'm not even addressing the pornographic stuff that involved what appeared to be young children, which is weird. The condition of the house would lead a normal person to believe that something wasn't right there. So he had an absolute right to call the police, and the police had an absolute responsibility to call Child Protective Services. So your complaint is dismissed. Now let's get to your counterclaim. You're suing for the rent for the time that they lived there. Rent was how much a month?
$9.50.
When did they move out?
They actually moved out in October. They did not move out in June.
June, July, August, September, October. 5 months. $4,750. Listen, they're scammers.
I know you are.
Period. Squatters and scammers. And based upon the photographs that I saw, not very responsible parents either. Now, you don't mind my not going into this grill that they allegedly took? I don't care about a grill. They owe you for rent. And how much did it cost you, Mr. Moreland and Miss Cooper, to get them out? Or did they just move?
They eventually just moved, but trying to fix up the house after they left, we had to end up filing a bankruptcy because of the mortgage and everything else wasn't paid. And that cost us $4,200 just to file that.
So you see, when you have a problem with your ex-wife and bills that built up during the divorce, and you go to scam somebody else, what happens is they get hurt. It's a trickle-down effect because they didn't have money to pay the mortgage because you didn't pay the rent and you refused to move out of the house. Perfect strangers had trouble. You ought to be ashamed of yourself, both of you. And I certainly think Child Protective Services should give another look to where you're living now. Where are you living now?
Decatur Township.
You know where that is, sir?
I do, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $4,700. Claim is dismissed. That's all.
27-year-old Tina Soundtress is suing her ex-boyfriend, 26-year-old Alvaro Macias, for the cost of a digital camera and the accessories. Tina says Alvaro's neglect caused the camera to be stolen.
Miss Soundtress, Mr. Macias used to be your boyfriend, then you broke up, then he was your friend, and according to your complaint, you allowed him to borrow a camera of yours.
Right.
And unfortunately, the camera was lost or stolen while it was in his possession. You want a new camera.
Right.
Mr. Macias says, I offered her a camera, the same kind of camera that she had. She didn't want that. She wants a different model that's twice as expensive as the one that I borrowed. Is that true?
They don't make the same model as the camera anymore that I
Well,
had.
tell me about the camera that you let him borrow, because clearly he's responsible. The only issue is, what is he responsible for?
Well, I loaned him the camera, a lens, the case, and the memory card.
How much did you pay for it when you purchased it?
It was around $1,200.
You have the receipt?
Yes, I do.
Let me see it.
That's for the camera, and this is for the case. They don't make the same model anymore.
So?
So I wouldn't be able to get the camera, so I feel that I should be allowed the model that replaces my camera.
No, darling. No. Let us say that he borrowed your 1987 Chevy Camaro, and he damaged the car so that you couldn't drive it. But they don't make a 1987 Chevy Camaro anymore. You don't get a 2006 Chevy. Do you understand?
Yeah, I understand.
Does that make it simple for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I'll hear you.
I do a lot of different things.
I'm not interested in what.
well-
In the fact that she had a relatively new camera, she lent it to you, either through your own negligence, because if the camera was in your possession at all times, it wouldn't have gotten stolen and it wouldn't have gotten lost.
Yes.
All right. Now, you're not responsible to buy her a brand new Cadillac. You're responsible to replace it or give her the money that she spent for it.
But let me explain to you what happened.
I don't care what happened.
Does it matter what she said to me?
No. She's suing you. You're going to tell me she said, forget it, I don't use it anymore?
Yes.
I don't care. Now she changed her mind. That's what women do. They change her mind. Men don't ask for directions. Women change their mind.
I work for a newspaper, and I also do a radio show. Me and my business partner went to New York for a conference, all right? It's a Latin rap conference. She's a fan of the music.
I don't care. I don't care. She bought the camera with her own money, and you lost it. Now you have to replace it.
And I did. I worked for a newspaper. We went over there to take all these pictures. I told him, watch the camera. It was the end of an artist showcase. And I went to get all this other stuff.
Listen to me. I'm not interested in how it got stolen and how it got lost. It's your responsibility. How many times do I have to say that?
Okay, but I did. When I got back, I told her what happened, okay? I said, let me figure something out, because it's a lot of money. That's an expensive camera. I had told her, don't get that camera, because it's too expensive, okay? But anyways, that's not the point. I told her I'd figure
Listen to me! Just tell me things that are the point. It's very late and I'm hungry. It's lunchtime.
All right.
So I want you to just tell me the point.
All right, the newspaper I work for, I managed to get them to give me this camera. I have the same exact camera at the newspaper. I talked to them.
Just a minute.
The same exact model.
Listen to me. You have a brand new, same camera that she purchased. Is that what you're telling me?
It's not brand new.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,225. That's all. Get out.
17-year-old Tomas Plancarte Benson says former friend Daniel Tingen cheated him out of $200. Daniel claims he and Tomas were partners in a bank scam.
Mrs. Benson, this is your son. Mr. and Mrs. Naylor, your son, and it is your claim, Miss Benson, that the defendant's son defrauded your son out of a couple of $100.
That's correct.
By some sort of scam with your son's ATM card. Mr. and Mrs. Naylor say that this was not a scam by their son, but sort of a thing that both boys did because they wanted some money, and your son is just not prepared to fess up that he was complicit in this little scam. So he's blamed their son.
Okay.
So why don't the parents sit down for a second, because they weren't there, they don't know what happened. The only two people that know what happened are these two people who were standing in front of me. Your first name is what?
Tomas.
And yours?
Daniel.
Daniel, how long have you and Tomas been friends?
For a couple of years now.
So why don't you tell me, Tomas, your version of what happened and when it happened?
All right. This situation all started on January 23rd of this year when I had lent Mr. Tingen $40 from my own bank account.
Where were you when he asked you for the money?
I was at home.
And where was the money?
It was in my bank account.
And where was he?
At his house, I presume, yeah.
Well, how did he contact you, sir?
Yeah, he called me. He had called me from his house.
And said what?
And said he needed $20. The first time. There's two transactions here. One earlier in the evening and then one later. And
Look at me, sir.
I'm trying to collect myself. I'm very nervous.
He called you once and said, I need $20, not 40.
It's 40. He asked me for 40 altogether. The first time he said he needed money for...
Mr. Benson, you're tripping all over yourself, sir. Look at me. You're tripping all over yourself, Tomas.
I'm very sorry. I'm very nervous.
Get unnervous, Mr. Benson.
It's very hard. Sorry.
He called you in your house on January 23rd and said, I need...
$20 first.
Okay. And you said...
Okay. I didn't ask him what he needed it for.
I didn't ask you. And then what did you do? Did you say, I'll meet you at my bank? Come over.
Yeah. I said I'd meet him halfway there. Like, there's a street that we meet at, and then we head to my bank.
So you went to your bank on January 23rd and took out $20.
Yeah, just $20 first.
And you gave it to him?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
And then he called me later that evening and
Just
said...
a minute. Then he went home and you went home?
Yeah. And we went home.
Go ahead.
And then he called me later that evening saying he'd need another $20. And so I said, all right, but that's kind of a lot of money that I'm lending to you. Could you pay me interest on it or something? And he agreed $10 interest, which would make it $50. And that was our agreement. And the way he was going to pay me back was getting a check from his grandma in the amount of $250 later that week. He was supposed to be getting this check. So then we agreed that I would cash this check through my bank. Then afterwards, I waited till for...
Look at me. Don't look there.
I'm sorry. So then I was going to wait for a call from him. And then I finally got the call on February 2nd, Wednesday. And he said that he finally got his check from his grandma. And we'd met up and we headed to my bank. And I looked at the check and it was in the amount of $250. I signed my name to pay to the order of Tomas Benson. I have all this information right here. I have all this evidence.
I didn't ask you for anything. I asked you to tell me the story.
All right, we headed to my bank. I had looked at the check, seen that it was in the right amount.
You told me about that already.
Yeah, and then I put it in the envelope, put it on the ledge, grabbed my wallet to get my bank card out to bank, put it in the machine, typed in the amount, $250 deposit, and sometime between that time, I believe that he had switched the envelope. He took an envelope with the check in it, and he...
Don't tell me what you believe, sir. I'm not interested what you believe.
But yeah, I put it on the ledge. I typed in that I would deposit it.
You told me that already.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you.
Don't tell me again. I have a very good memory.
Then I put the envelope into the bank, and then I withdrew $200 from my own account, and I gave it to him then because I thought the $50 was supposed to be mine, and then I'd give him $200 out of my own bank to make it even. And then afterwards, we just parted ways.
Subsequently, you advised that they had no envelope, they had no check, they had no nothing, and your bank account became overdrawn. Is that right?
No, I had money in my account.
Okay, but you were advised then that the account never was credited with $250 in that check. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you thought that was a big scam. Mr. Benson, after you gave him the $200 in cash, where did you go?
Back to my house.
Where did he go?
I'm not very sure.
Okay, go. Let's start with January 23rd with the two $20 bills.
That's not true. He never loaned me $20 two times. That's not true at all.
I have statements here.
You don't have a bank statement showing that you lent him $20 twice? You have a bank statement that they withdrew $20?
Two withdrawals for the amount of $20.
So what? He says you never lent him any money.
Well, I can show you my bank statements here. They show there's 2 transactions on that day.
I believe that there are 2 transactions on that day, sir. But you have no proof. I believe that there were 2 transactions on January 23rd. There is absolutely nothing to suggest that those 2 transactions had anything to do with him, other than your testimony. Is that right? Is that right?
I guess, yes.
Good. Go ahead.
Okay, on January 27th, when he did pull up the $200, we both split the $200 with that. I was supposed to give him $50 later for it.
Just a second. You're getting ahead of yourself, Daniel. On the 27th, what happened?
Okay, me and Thomas met up. We had an idea. We were going to go deposit a slip with no check in it. We both knew what we were doing.
Just a second. On the 27th, you were going to deposit a slip.
Yes.
Just a deposit slip.
Yes.
Whose idea was this?
It was both of ours.
So you were going to put in just a deposit slip with no check.
Yes.
Draw out $200, but you would owe him $150. $50 of that was interest.
Yes, which I would have to pay later.
What made you and the defendant get together with this little scheme?
Because we wanted money to go out and party that night.
What night?
That night that we did it. I'm not quite sure what day it was, February 2nd, I guess.
Did you go out afterwards?
Yes.
The 2 of you?
Yes.
Where did you go?
Just to people's houses and stuff.
Well, what'd you need money for?
To buy stuff.
Drugs?
Out and party. No, not drugs.
What?
Alcohol.
Did you go to mutual friends' houses? Look at me. Did you go to mutual friends' houses?
Yes and no.
What do you mean yes and no?
Well, I didn't know some of the people. We went over to somebody else's house I didn't know. We went over to one of my buddies' house that we both knew.
What's his name?
Josh.
Your Honor, I was barred from the premises of Cherry Park Apartments, so I could not go over to Joshua's house.
Why were you barred from there?
Because of an incident with my brother.
No. He got kicked out because they found out that he was dealing.
Dealing what?
Drugs. No, I had actually been barred because I had a fight with my older brother who also lived in the apartments.
Tomas, if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true.
What is it that doesn't make sense?
Your slick story. Now, Daniel, at first when this scam was discovered, what did you tell your parents?
They didn't tell me anything about it at first. I just thought that the less they knew, the better, I guess, at the time. I knew I did something wrong. I didn't really want to fess up to it at the time, but now I think it's the right time. I shouldn't be blamed for everything. We did it 50-50. I'm admitting that we both did it and it was wrong, but I don't want to be the only one to blame.
Okay.
And another thing here.
Is that a police report?
Oh, yes, it is.
Can I see it, please?
And here's the case suit, which here, I'll show you both of them.
Miss Benson, is your son on probation?
No, he's not.
Had he been?
No.
You hesitated there for a moment.
He is going to LifeWorks program that he's going because he had a drug and alcohol problem.
When did he start it? You can stand up now.
He started, I think, in January of this year, I believe it was.
Miss Benson, when did you find out about this money?
Right after the incident happened.
Well, tell me about how you found out about it.
I had found out because Thomas had gotten a letter in the mail saying that there wasn't a check in the envelope. And so he had come to me and told me he was very furious. And then he had made contact with the bank to find out what happened. He wanted an investigation.
So the first you found out about it was when your son came to you.
Yes.
And showed you what?
Showed me the letter he'd gotten from the bank.
Which is right here.
Yeah, I believe that there was nothing in the envelope.
And I would have no reason to put a fake deposit slip in there because I had money in the bank already. If I really wanted to party, I could just pull money out of my bank and it'd be no problem.
Who handles this account for him?
He does.
How old was he when you let him start to take care of this money?
He started working when he was about 15, and he's really good with his money, very tight-fisted, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, he's not so tight-fisted if he was using some of his money for illegal things.
That is true.
Yeah, that's
However, I mean, when this incident happened, there would be no reason for him to put a fake deposit slip in there. If he already had money in there, all he had to do was just go out and pull it out.
That's true.
And they cut.
That's the only thing that I find troubling. Stand up. The only thing that I find troubling, quite frankly, is if this was his mother's bank account or one that was a joint bank account, and they had, in fact, his mother of the money,
right?
I could understand he would stick to his story. But this was his money. If he was going to take money out of that account to split to go partying, he can do that.
Yeah, we're not denying the whole story. I'm saying the whole thing sounds fishy to me.
Well, it does sound fishy to me, but the question that I have to ask myself, why would Mr. Benson get this letter from the bank on February 2nd that says there was no check in this deposit envelope and take it to show his mother?
I have no idea.
That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense to me
because
either.
If what he wanted to do was take out $200 and go partying with his friend, he would have done that. So why would he do this?
I have no idea.
Can you think of a reason?
Well, we weren't exactly both sober at the time either. We were the influence of alcohol too.
You were?
Yes.
If you were under the influence of alcohol, why would he make up this story about a check and an envelope? Where had you been drinking?
Or we just walking around and stuff around town.
We hadn't been drinking. I wasn't drinking at all.
Well, first, when this whole thing started, they did come over to our house, and I was in the other room, and my husband was asking Thomas about this check, and he said that there was a check. My husband asked, okay, what was the color of it? Do you remember whose name was on it? What is the extra $50 for? And he said he was charging him $50 for cashing a check. And my husband asked him, why would you charge somebody $50 for cashing a check? I'm not, if these boys both did something, I didn't have a problem of paying the money back. I just wanted to come down to the bottom of the truth. And that's why I feel like we're here today.
Well, as I said to you, my problem is, why would he go to his mother?
Exactly.
If he was complicit in this incident.
I have no idea.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
And if it doesn't make sense, it's usually not true. The bank says there was no check enclosed. As a result, we've debited your account. Due to the nature of this transaction, we have disabled your ATM card to ensure that nobody is going to use it, but you can get another ATM card.
Actually, they would not reissue me a card.
They cut it up right there.
Yeah.
And they won't give you another one?
No.
They were very sorry they had to do it
And I
because
was
he had built
very
a report
embarrassed
with
and
them.
humiliated because I would never defraud my bank. I knew everybody there very well, and I was very responsible with my money. I budgeted very well.
Well, that's not true. You bought some drugs with your money.
Every now and then.
What?
Every now and then, but...
Right. So that's not 100% accurate, right?
Well, compared to other people my age, I believe. Because a lot of people my age don't have bank accounts, don't have as much money as I did.
Miss Benson, he's very slick. He really is. He's very slick. I'm not sure, and I'm not convinced.
Well, I don't think he would have gone through all this trouble.
Yeah.
I mean,
Unless
making a police report.
He just gave me a reason. When did they cut up your bank card?
A few days after I received that letter, though.
Few days. Just listen to me carefully. When did you make a police report?
It was April 3rd or 4th.
After they cut up your bank card?
Yeah.
April 13th.
It was after they cut up my bank card.
Well, that's a reason. That's a reason.
We tried to contact them. We were told by the officer that took the report to contact the family that it was a civil matter, and our phone number was blocked.
I don't care. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about whether your son was aware of the fact that there was nothing in this deposit slip that the two boys brought to the bank in order
I did not know that. I thought...
Listen! That's my job to figure out. He gave me a perfectly cogent story. You did not give me a perfectly cogent story. I'm still not comfortable that you were actually part of it. But I'm not comfortable enough, quite frankly, Mr. Benson, of $20 here and $20 there and another $10 in interest, making it $50. I don't know what it was about. Maybe it was drug money. Maybe he was selling you something. Who knows? I'm not comfortable with your whole story. I'm also not comfortable with saying to you that you were part of the scheme. That's not what I have to determine today. What I have to determine today is whether or not they're going to pay you either all or half of what came out of your bank. And since what you're asking me for is to make a determination that the nailers owe you $250, I'm not prepared to do that because I'm not totally comfortable with your story.
Ma'am,
What?
it's 200, not 250.
Thank you for correcting me, sir. What difference does it make?
That's correct. What difference does it make?
Right.
My son had also asked...
There's no further issue. I'm not prepared to rule that you are entitled to $200 from the defendant because I'm not totally comfortable with your story, Tomas.
All right. Can I show you some emails that I had sent him beginning March 27th?
No, show me
22nd?
emails that he sent to you.
Well,
They're answering them right here.
Does he acknowledge that he owes you the money?
Yes.
Let me take a look at it.
This began March.
Hand them all.
This was on the...
Shh. See these emails?
No.
I have more right here,
Yeah, I
too.
also have more right here.
Continuation of all that.
What's that all about, sir?
These aren't even from me.
Yeah, they are from you. What do you think
No,
about that, sir?
They're not. Seriously, they're not from me.
Who's Rob's dad?
Robert was his next door neighbor.
And what kind of work does he do for Rob's dad?
Who? I'm sorry,
Your
who?
son.
He does. They can do yard work for him.
And has he done that in the past?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what it says there. I'm doing work for Rob's dad.
Yeah, but I didn't write most of this.
Couldn't have made it up.
Shh. Got it? Look at me, Mr. and Mrs. Naylor. Now you got it?
Yeah, I understand. I just don't understand about the check. This is what the whole weird thing is.
Listen, I don't understand about the checks either. I don't. And I'm not certain whether Tomas is talking about $100 or $200, because nowhere in there does it say how much you think he owes you, because according to him, he acknowledges he owes you $100, right?
Yes.
But not $200.
No. I asked for another check, actually.
Well, why would you ask for another check? If he didn't have a good check the first time, why would he give you a good check the second time from his grandmother?
I know.
Interesting. And you did write that, Daniel.
Not all of it, though.
Daniel!
Daniel, just tell the truth. If you did
Not all of it, though. I'm telling you, but yeah.
So you acknowledged you owed him some money.
Yes.
Yes.
And you acknowledged that you had a job and that you were going to get him some money.
Yes.
The question is 100 or 200. Is that it?
It's 100.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $100. That's all.
22-year-old Lindsay Allen is suing eBay seller 26-year-old Karen Stevens for selling her a fake Louis Vuitton purse. Karen insists the purse is real.
Miss Allen, you purchased what you believe to be an authentic designer bag on the internet from the defendant. I think you paid $250 for it. When it arrived, it was your belief that it was a fake.
Yes.
And you spent another $35 to have someone examine it. And you are going to be showing me, according to your complaint, that it was determined that the bag was, in fact, a fake.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens says there is no way that the bag was fake, and she's going to prove to me that the bag was authentic. Can I see the bag, please?
Yes.
Why did you want this bag, by the way?
I've always wanted an authentic Louis Vuitton purse. I did not know that what I was getting was a replica. I do have a real one here to compare.
I'd like to take a look at it, please.
The serial number on the authentic one is underneath the pouch.
This pouch?
Yeah, the interior pouch, right underneath it.
Oh, you would never know that unless you looked very carefully.
And there's no serial number on the replica as well. As you can see also, the stitching is uneven. In authentic Louis Vuitton purses, the stitching is usually close to perfect.
There are several things that are different.
Yes.
There is no authentication on the lock, and there is an authentication on the lock on this one. Have you ever examined a real one as compared to this one?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Stevens, what do you do for a living?
I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I sell on eBay.
Where did you get this bag from?
My mom.
Where did she get it from?
A good friend of hers. It was actually a gift.
Well, it's a fake.
I don't believe that it is.
Yeah, it is. Sure it is. Would you send it back to her? She's going to look at several things. First of all, she's going to look at the piping. She's going to look at the serial numbers inside. She's going to look at the lock. First, take a look at the lock on both. Take a look at the lock on the real one. Turn it over. One also has a serial number on the bottom. The one that you sold her does not.
Yes.
Now open up the real one. Open up the flap, and you'll see a serial number underneath the flap. See the serial number?
Yes.
Open up yours. See a serial number?
No, I do not.
Got it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You look like a very nice lady. She wants her money back. When did she call you and tell you that she wanted her money back?
She emailed me the purse saying that it was fake, and I said that I didn't believe that it was. And if she did believe that it was fake, I sent 7 different, very detailed pictures to her of the purse that show the stitching. If she had any idea that it wasn't authentic or thought that it wasn't, I sent extra pictures.
Listen to me. You sent her the pictures for her to try to prove that it was a real purse.
Exactly.
But it's not.
But why did she not argue that if she thought that it was? Because I'm not a cheater or a stealer.
Now, I understand that. But she wanted her money back. And if you had said, listen, if you're dissatisfied with the purse, I'll give you your money back, we wouldn't be here today. But in order for her to prove to you that it was fake, she took it to somebody to authenticate it. Do you have the report? Can I see it, please?
Yes.
You want to sell things? That's what happens. I mean, if you don't know that something is authentic and you advertise it as a Louis Vuitton bag, you're advertising it as an authentic Louis Vuitton bag. Yes. Turns out that it is not an authentic Louis Vuitton bag. I can see that. I've shown you some examples of where you can look and see it. I don't think you're a dishonest lady. I think you thought perhaps she was mistaken. Maybe you thought she was trying to scam you and would send you back a different bag, which is what you say in your answer. In the meantime, the big bag goes back to the plaintiff. The little bag stays with the defendant, and she gets her money back, plus the cost of the expert, $285. Thank you very much. You're two nice ladies.
23-year-old Crystal Howell is suing her neighbor, Rory Bays, for money owed on a 1989 Mitsubishi Montero she sold him. Rory claims it was never a legal sale.
Miss Howell, you sold the defendant a used car.
Correct.
For $1,900.
That is correct.
He paid you, according to you, $900, and the understanding was he was going to make payments for the rest, the other $1,000. Within a relatively short period of time, the engine blew up in this car. What year car was it?
It was an 89.
However, I would like to point out that at the time he bought the vehicle, he was aware of...
Just don't tell me what he was aware of.
Okay.
You can't tell me what he was aware of.
Can I tell you
Unless
what
you
told him?
No.
Okay.
What you can do is you can show me a bill of sale.
Yes. What would that
Bill
be?
of
The
sale.
title, or I have a
contract, a bill of sale,
written agreement. There you go.
So this is a 1989 car, which is now 18 years old, and you sold it to him for $1,900. And he says Arbla is responsible for the purchase of this 1989 Mitsubishi, payments, what the delivery payment was, and how they were supposed to be made, the rest of the payments, when they were supposed to be made. Nothing about the condition of the car, nothing. That's all it says. So you can't tell me what you told him, you can't tell me what he knew, you can't tell me anything else, because anything else should have been in this contract. Do you understand? Law does not permit you to go outside the four corners of this contract. So you were selling him this car. It blew up after a... No, not as is. You did not say that here. Do you understand that? Good. So the car blew up, but that still doesn't relieve you, sir, of the obligation of paying for the car. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Except you say that she didn't have clear title to sell you the car.
No, ma'am, she didn't.
That when the car blew up, you went to try to take it to a salvage for the purpose of... Put your hand down. For the purpose of getting some money, so you were going to pay for it.
Correct.
And you didn't have clear title to the car.
Correct.
May I interject?
Yes.
The person that I purchased it for never took his name off the title, which I was unaware of, because the automobile
then
that
he's
I
absolutely right. You did not give him clear title.
But
listen to me.
Automobile dealership that I purchased it from is responsible for transferring the title.
Listen to me. What he's saying is, and he's absolutely right.
I have a copy of the lien right here, ma'am.
I'd like to see it. You did not have clear title to sell him this car.
However, I will say that when I purchased the vehicle, I had owned that car for 6 years. I purchased it off 3 years before selling it to Rory.
Hugh is the lien holder.
He was the gentleman that I purchased the car from.
Miss Howell,
I owe
what
him no
I'm
money.
telling you is you did not give him clear title to this car.
I was unaware of that.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid $2,900 to $3,500. I'm not positive of the amount.
Let's say you paid $2,900 for it. You sold it to him for $1,900. You got $900 from him, which means you had the car for 6 years or so, and it cost you $2,000. Do you understand what I'm saying? I feel badly at all dismissing your claim.
But
not at all. Because this agreement that you just gave me is void because you had no right to sell him the car. And I don't care what you put in it in order to maintain it.
He had a brand new motor. May I please call my
Miss Howell,
father as a witness?
Miss Howell.
Yes.
Is he going to tell me that there wasn't a lien on the car?
No.
Then I'm not interested in what he has to say. Thank you very much. Your case is dismissed.
Housekeeper Nita Bayer is suing former employer Kendra Hall for damages resulting from an injury she sustained in Kendra's home. Kendra is countersuing for the return of Nita's unearned wages.
Miss Bayer, according to what I read in your complaint, you did some housework for Miss Hall. You fell in her house. You want her to be responsible for your medical bills and your lost wages. Ms. Hall says she's not certain that you fell in her house and injured yourself there. She's counterclaiming because she says that she paid you for an entire month and you only worked that one day. She wants you to refund to her the amount that she paid you for the remainder of the month when you didn't work. I have a few questions. Ms. Bayer, how long did you work for Ms. Hall?
7 months.
How often did you go to her home?
Every Friday starting of March 2006.
How many hours did you spend there?
Usually I spent somewhere between 7 and 8 hours a day.
What was the date of this accident in the house?
It was November 3rd, 2006.
And she had paid you for the month?
Yes, she did.
What was your monthly salary?
It was $360. I received $90 a week.
Now tell me about this fall that you took in the house. Miss Hall was not at home.
That's right.
Go ahead.
I arrived to work and I started working in the kitchen. Then I went upstairs, stripped the beds, made the beds, and then I took all the laundry down to the laundry room, and the light bulb was burned out in the laundry room. So I went into the garage to look for a ladder, and I found a 3-foot ladder. I came, I took down the fixture, which was full of bugs and dirty. I washed it, cleaned it, went upstairs, got light bulbs that are kept upstairs in the linen closet. When I came down, I went up the 3-step ladder, went to put the bulb in and lost my balance and fell against the wash and dryer on my left side. When I got up, I felt nauseous and dizzy, So I went outside and sat in a little brick fence that's in the backyard, trying to gain my composure. And then I finally went into the house. I took some Aleve, some Excedrin.
Stop 1 second. So it would be clear and fair to say that you did not fall because the ladder broke?
No.
Because there was any imperfection in the floor? You fell because you lost your balance?
That's right.
Nobody else's fault but yours?
That's right.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, since she pays me monthly, $360, she had just left that check that morning, and I never thought anything was really seriously wrong with me, and I tried to continue to work. In fact, I did continue. I finished cleaning the house, even did the laundry, very slow. Usually I leave about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. She arrived about 5 o'clock, and she asked me, "Are you still here?" And I said, "Yes, I did something foolish today. I fell and I hurt my arm. I don't know what's the matter. It really, really hurts." She quickly ran to the phone, called her sister-in-law, who I also work for, and she said, "Nita fell changing a light bulb. Do you think my home insurance will cover her if I take her to the doctor?" She said, "Okay, thank you," hung up, ran to her office, came back with some papers and said, "Yes, my home insurance does cover it, but I have to pay a $1,000 deductible, of which I will not pay." And suddenly she wasn't concerned about me anymore. And she says, "This is ridiculous." And I said, "Well, then you're not going to help me?" And she says...
So you had asked her?
Yes.
Just a second. You didn't make that clear, Miss Bayer.
I'm sorry.
So you said to her, "I finished working, but I hurt my shoulder. I want to go to the doctor. Will you pay for it?"
I didn't say, "Will you pay for it?" I asked her, "Can you help me?" That's what I said.
Well, what did you want her to do to help you?
To take to the doctor. I figured, well, since I fell in her home, that...
So you felt she was responsible?
That's right.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you, Miss Bayer, but you left that out of your story. What you made it sound like was you told her that your shoulder was hurting. Without saying another word, she went over to the phone and called her sister-in-law.
Yes.
But that's not what happened. You said, "I want to go to the doctor. Can you help me? Because you're responsible because I fell in your house." So she went to find out if that was true.
And she came back and found out that it was true.
What makes you think that if you have an accident in somebody else's home and it's your fault that they should be responsible?
Because I was under her employment at the time.
Well, that may be, but, you know, there is something that lacks common sense about that. I'm a common sense gal myself. What you told me was you fell and it was your fault.
Yes.
And you want somebody else to pay for it. That's what it comes down to. I mean, if you're taking it at face value, you may have fallen in her house. You know, I'm not necessarily saying that Miss Hall should not have assumed this responsibility. But what I'm saying to you is it doesn't flow naturally. If you fall in somebody's house and there's nothing wrong with their house, the railing isn't loose and the steps aren't uneven and there's not a slippery floor and there's no ice in the front walk, well, that shouldn't be their fault. It's your fault. You fell. That makes sense to me. The fact that most jurisdictions have superimposed some liability on the part of homeowners if they have people working in their home, that irrespective of whose fault it is, they have to take the responsibility, that's something else. But I'm just telling you, from a common sense perspective, it doesn't make sense. It makes no more sense than if you were walking down the street in front of somebody's house and there was no ice, no snow, there was nothing wrong. You were thinking about something, you fell in front of their house, and you say, "Well, I fell in front of their house, I'm going to sue them." You fell because you weren't being careful.
I was being very careful.
Well, if you were being very careful, the ladder didn't move by itself. And if you were being very careful, that maybe you had a pre-existing medical condition that caused you to become dizzy. Whatever it wasn't her fault. It was an accident.
Yes, it was.
It was an accident. An accident that was your fault. Not her ladder's fault, not her floor's fault, not her light bulb's fault, not her light fixture's fault. It was your fault. Now, I say this to you because what you want is more than just your medical bills paid. You want medical bills and lost earnings and lost wages. Why should she pay for that?
It is still an ongoing problem, Your Honor. I have proof here.
It's your ongoing problem.
That's true.
Not her ongoing problem. It's your ongoing problem. And if what you're saying is that she should have taken care of the medical bills because she didn't want to pay the deductible, listen, she fell in your house. You know what the parameters are, right?
Yes.
That's what the law superimposes on you. I happen to think it's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense to me. But that's what the law says.
I understand that. Can I please tell you
the
side of the story that I believe to be the truth? Very
but
similar.
But let me tell you something. Don't go to where you don't think that she was injured, because she's got things that she's prepared to show me, that she hurt her rotator cuff when she fell.
She was injured. Where? I'm not sure, because when I came home from work that day, I put my things down, got my kids in the house as I always do, and she continued to work. And I didn't run to the phone and run to anywhere. She insisted, I'm hurting. Do you have insurance? I'm like, what? I was in shock.
Well,
and I
be in shock. She fell off the ladder, changing a light bulb in your house.
This is what she's telling me, okay? I don't know this. I really don't. Because
well, you aren't home.
She kept working.
She told me that.
And she's working, and she's a hard worker. She
told me that.
Is. But what I don't like is that I did not say I would not pay. She told me later on the phone, you should have just paid the $1,000. I called my insurance company to see. I said, well, I don't know if there's a deductible. I'll find out. You know, we'll take care of this. Oh, don't worry about it. I'll go to county where my husband goes. Her husband's very ill. He goes to county hospital for treatment. This is what she told me. That's why I dropped it. Later, her daughter calls me. My mother, she's going to need surgery, possibly. I'm like, what has this got to do with me?
Okay, well, that's what it has to do with you. Where are the medical bills that you paid?
Okay.
Your total medical bills so far are $1,047. I don't know what this is.
I totaled everything up, lost wages, a doctor bill.
I'm not giving you any credit for lost wages, madam.
Okay.
I believe that you should pay your medical expenses. But you were paid already for the full month when you didn't work. Is that right?
On that paper in the blue I highlighted, I deducted the $270
well,
that
I know,
owed
but you
her.
deducted it from $3,000.
Right.
I'm deducting it from the $1,047. $777. Now, it's $777 that your insurance company is not going to pay because you have a $1,000 deductible. It's your option to have a $1,000 deductible, right? You could pay more insurance and have less deductible. You choose to be a self-insurer for the first $1,000. Are you following me? You look at me like I'm talking another language.
No.
Right, but you got it, right?
I got it.
You got it. You owe her $777. Sounds to me it's fair and reasonable. I don't think you're responsible for the fact that she's not working. And you haven't worked since November?
No, I haven't.
Well, who knows when you're going to be able to go back to work?
Well, that's why I was asking for the lost wages to cover the existing bills that
She's
it
not
has.
responsible for your negligence.
Okay.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $777. That's all. Thank you.
Maria Prieto claims her son's former friend, James Alfter, started a fire in her home while trying to grow marijuana.
Ms. Prieto, you rented a house to the defendant.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that he is responsible for a fire in your home that resulted in damage. Some of the damage was covered by insurance, but a great deal of it was not covered by insurance, and you want him to pay the balance.
That's correct.
Your out-of-pocket expenses. Mr. Alfter?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the way you pronounce your name?
Yes, ma'am.
You look petrified. Are you scared of me?
No.
You should be.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mr. Alfter says that your homeowner's insurance should have covered whatever losses there were. He wasn't doing anything wrong, and it was just an accident. That's your defense.
Yes.
Your Honor, I disagree.
Just. How old are you, sir?
20.
When did you move out of your home?
I've been on my own since I was about 18.
And how have you been taking care of yourself?
I work.
For whom?
Family business.
What kind of business?
Construction. Do concrete work.
Whose business is it?
It's my grandfather's.
Who else works there?
The crew, my dad, my brothers.
So it's a big business?
Yeah.
It's a lucrative business?
Yeah.
How much? Yes, try yes.
Yes.
How much do you get paid?
$30 an hour.
And you work 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week?
40-hour weeks.
So you've got money in the bank?
I'm all right.
What?
I said I'm all right. Yes.
You have a car?
Yes.
Shape? Do you work out?
Yes.
You work out at home or in a gym?
The gym.
You have a gym membership?
Yes.
I ask you all these questions, sir, because I'm trying to find out a little bit about you. Because this complaint says, Mr. Alfter, that the fire that started in Miss Prieto's house, on what date?
September the 12th.
On what date did he move into the house?
He moved in July 1st.
Was started because in your bedroom, right?
In master bedroom, correct.
People usually sleep in the master bedroom, right?
Yes.
How many bedrooms were there in the house?
5.
How many people were living in the house?
Just 2.
You and who else?
Me and my roommate.
Male or female?
No.
So that those were 2 bedrooms. You don't spend the night with your roommate, right? You each have your own bedroom, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But I guess you didn't want you or your roommate to get the master bedrooms because then it would be unequal, so that you each stayed in other bedrooms.
Yes.
And you were using your master bedroom to grow marijuana. You actually hadn't brought in the plants yet, according to the complaint and the answer, but it was all set up with a whole bunch of lights, right?
Yes, there's equipment.
I mean, you weren't planning on shooting a film in there, were you?
No.
You were going to grow marijuana.
Yes.
What were you going to do with it when you grew it?
Well, I have anxiety, and I was going to try to get my card, cannabis card.
You have anxiety?
Yeah.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Your parents are alive?
Yes.
Did they know you were coming here today?
Yes.
Did they know that 10 million people were going to be watching you today?
Yes.
Did they offer you any warnings, sir?
Yes.
And I know that it's not relevant to the case, but I, because I am a mother, would like to know what your parents said to you.
They told me I better learn my lesson.
Both of them?
Yes.
Sounds like my kind of people. Who do you expect to pay for these damages that weren't covered by Miss Prieto's insurance as a result of your lunacy in trying to start a marijuana farm in her house?
Myself.
Right. So why didn't you just pay her, sir? Why did you force her to come here? No, I mean, I know that she looks lovely and she appears to be a very nice lady, but why didn't you just say, I'm really sorry, I acted like an idiot, I'm 20 years old, I'm not fully grown up yet. You know, just help me out here. It'll never happen again. I'm going to cut my hair so I can see. You know, all of those things.
The sum, that amount that she wanted was pretty high. I thought the insurance would have covered it, but I was going to pay the deductible.
Yeah, but the insurance company didn't, for instance, pay for all the landscaping around the house that was singed.
But when I moved in the house, the land or the landscaping wasn't too caught up.
May not have been too caught up. What about the fact that she didn't have the use of her house for a while?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah, no, that's my fault.
So who should pay for that?
Myself.
Yes, ma'am. Can I see the bills, please?
Sure. Oh. And I have pictures also.
Should have listened to your parents, Mr. After. Father's a pretty tough guy?
Yeah.
Are you using your real name today, sir?
Yes.
Is your father's last name the same as yours?
Yes.
Look what you did to her house. Bird, look what he did to her house. You planned on smoking an awful lot of weed, sir, for your anxiety. Why don't you go to a therapist?
I don't know.
Well, I would try a therapist before I would start farming again. Who helped you with all this, sir?
I did it myself.
What about your roommate?
No, well, he helped a little bit.
Was he going to be your partner?
No.
What does he do for a living?
He works.
For whom?
He does construction, too.
For your father?
No.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Please.
Okay, as far as all that equipment he purchased, and it was worth over supposedly $6,000, and he didn't have money to pay the rent. So he had money to go out there and buy all that, plus, you know, start his little lab thing. But on the other hand, he's making $30 an hour, and he could have just stepped up to the plate and said, I'm in.
बात थोड़ा मैडम है और बड्डा है ये हमारे यहाँ देखो तो सबसे पहले आप लोग को मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि मेरा नाम है डॉन बनेगा डॉन